Hello, hello. It's Saturday night, so you know what the deal is. It's Saturday night. Shoot the breeze time. I want to thank everyone who uh, participated in last week's stream. I want to also thank everyone who participated in this week's stream. I'd like to encourage you guys, those of you who listen to the playback especially, to actually drop some comments. Let us know that you're there, paying attention, and that you have some questions for the panelists. So for those of you, especially those of you in the playback, uh, please post some commentary. Post where you're from. That's always the pinned comment. What city are you from, and what question do you have? That'll be great to encourage more conversation. You know what it is. I like to come on here before we start the show officially and let you guys know what we have in store for you tonight. Please drop a 1 if you can hear my voice, by the way, as I pull up these topics tonight. So we got a few topics from last week that we didn't get to. One would be the African concept of God. Another topic we have tonight is there is an app for that too. You wouldn't believe what this app is for. We're going to talk about Namibia versus Germany. I don't know if a lot of people realize that Germany participated in colonization, carried out atrocities before the ones they carried out against the small hats. They had carried out an atrocity or two. And Germans, we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about the psychology of the colonized African. The psychology of the colonized African. Lastly, we're going to talk about why does it matter who makes more money? Why does it matter who makes more money? Lord of Slaughter gave me a 1 out. That means I can be heard. The matron says greetings to everyone. Nelly says good evening. Good evening to the matron, to Nelly, Lord of Slaughter. Also, good evening to Daily Affirmations by Pauline. Shout out to Lord of Slaughter. Lord of Slaughter gave $4.99 and the RBG colors tonight towards the goal. There's a weekly, mostly weekly, I put up a goal. If we hit the goal, we could do an extra hour. I appreciate a lot of stuff checking that out and dropping a super chat on us tonight. So much appreciated, brother. Thank you for that. So those are the topics we have for you tonight. Remember, if there's topics that you really, really, really would like to discuss, not only that, if there's a Pan-African Gaviite community you would like to join, by all means, click the link in the description and join our Discord. There you can continue conversations from Shoot the Breeze. You can have other conversations if you please. And you can post topics that you would like to hear discussed here on the panel every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And last but not least, the link is always pinned at the top of the chat. You can join the panel yourself and have your thoughts be heard. So with that said, I'm going to start the show officially now. And on the other side, I'll drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as introduce any and all of our panelists tonight. So please stay. In the meantime, hit the like button, share the show to your social media. I appreciate it.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Make sure to also check out Brother Bakari, BBN Network. Make sure to check out Forecast Radio. Check out Consider Chic / Realm in the Bush. And last but not least, check out Kofi, the Black Critic. Let me just post the link. I don't know why it's not showing, but let me post the link in the chat. So there's the link in the chat. I know Buana is looking for it. Shout out to D-Web who's out there saying peace, family. Make sure you guys are tuned into all of the different programs on KWAZ Radio. I'm looking for, it's a strange thing. I'm looking for a particular tweet, and now it's showing me that like the tweet's gone. So you know what? I'm gonna swap that out for something else. So the Namibia topic won't be discussed because the tweet seems to be gone. Instead, we'll talk about Africa. We'll talk about Africa and we'll talk about Africa and the fact that they're using their own their own firearms. Shout out to KW7 saying Sawabona in the chat. Buana, how are you this week?
I'm good, Koku. How are you, brother?
I'm hanging in there, man. Thanks for coming through.
No sweat, bro.
Yes, sir. So let's get right into it, I guess. Let me just finish updating my file here. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 says the African concept of God. The African concept of God. This takes us to YouTube, where we'll watch this video from a familiar face. Let me make sure you guys can see my screen. Yes, you can. So we'll watch this video and then we'll discuss it.
And now I want to say something about why it is that I have to be talking to you about African history. The reason I'm talking to you about it is because it's not in the textbooks. And it's not in the textbooks because we don't write textbooks. We have other people write the textbooks and they put that propaganda in there, and we are supposed to swallow it. Now, we are told that after the Greeks were taken over by the Romans, and that civilization decayed. And then the Roman civilization went down after the fall of Rome, and you had a 500-year dark age. We were told that Christianity re-civilized Europe and produced modern civilization. And we know, if we read the literature, that these white Christians of Europe are the dumbest people that ever lived. They said that the earth was flat like a pancake out in the vastness of space, with the sun and the moon and all the stars going around it. The ancient Egyptians in the Pyramid Age, 6,000 years ago, knew that the world was round. They knew that it went around the sun in 365 and 1/4 days. And their astronomers measured the earth, and they knew what the polar diameter was. They knew what the equatorial diameter was. They measured the circumference of the earth, and they calculated it so accurately until modern astronomers said their error was only 1 yard. In other words, the circumference of the earth is about 25,000 miles, and they calculated it with an error of about this, 1 yard. So if you read history the way it happened and not the way other people wrote about it, you will find out that the black race created the civilization, civilized the white folks 2 times. So that you want to get some perspective on this. And the white folks took the religion of ancient Egypt, of Ethiopian Egypt, and boiled it up. They'll tell you that if you get some of this cheap literature like the Jehovah's Witnesses people turn out. I remember seeing one of their quarterlies. God is sitting up on a golden throne in heaven, blue eyes, blonde hair. Next to him is Jesus Christ, also with blue eyes and blonde hair. On the other side is the Holy Ghost, also white, and a bunch of angels in the background, white. And a bunch of people kneeling on the ground, worshiping this God, black and white. Underneath is hell with the devil black and all the imps black. So it looks as though since white people are not admitted into the Christian heaven, then we all going to wind up in hell. But I told my students they had nothing to worry about, because the only unpleasant thing about hell was the heat. It's too hot down there. But since if you go there, you're going to stay a long time. And if you stay long enough, you get used to the heat. So that then it won't bother you anymore. And then I found out that the Africans were dragged into the slave trade because the white folks were too lazy to work and produce the things that they wanted. And they dragged us into slavery, converted us to their particular brand of Christianity. And the African had a much better religion over in Africa. That's what I call Christianity before Christ. He had a much better religion. The Christians tell you that there's a God sitting up on a throne in some place called heaven, who created the whole universe, and he created the human race, and they turned out to be such a voiceless bunch of people, and they had to have a flood drown out most of them to give the race a new start. And then this new bunch of people went to pot, and finally had to send his only son down to be crucified to save these people. And that's what they call the Christian scheme of salvation. Now the Africans had a religion which was much better. In ancient Egypt, if you will see a copy of my new book called Christianity Before Christ, and there's a long section in there on the mysteries of Egypt. Those are the religious rites of the ancient Egyptians. And you will find out that these people, in other words, there are 2 types of religion in the world. Supernatural religions or theistic religions, And then you have natural religions or atheistic religions. A lot of people have an idea that if a man is an atheist, that is, if he doesn't believe in a personal God, he's an irreligious person. That's not true. The Africans had an atheistic type of religion, and they were deeply religious people because they believed in that man not only has a body, but he also has a mind, soul, or spirit. And they took the position, for instance, if you went to a temple in ancient Egypt and told the priest that you wanted Horus, the Egyptian Christ, to save your soul, he would tell you not to waste his time. That Horus, Osiris, Isis, or nobody else is going to save your soul except you. In other words, they tell you this. They say, we believe in reincarnation. You have lived before. You'll come back to the world. And if you want a better life, the next time you come back, you'll have to earn it yourself. The gods are not going to give it to you. And the Egyptians told these people, if you want a better life the next time you come back to the earth, you live a good life now, and then when you come back, you'll have a better life. But if you lead an evil life, the next time you come back, it'll be worse. So it's up to you. Yeah, so that they told people not to pray to gods or angels or anything to save them. It was their job to save themselves. And I think that's a better religion than asking some dead Jew to save you. Now, these people, they believed in spiritualism and they believed in theosophy. And the whole world, all the religions of the world can be traced back to this African source. And Christians say their religion is true, but paganism is false. And as I've told some preachers, Christianity was stolen from the pagans. So if paganism is false, so is Christianity. Now, you say to yourself, well, when the Africans, a member of anyone who believes in the African traditional religion, he tells you that he believes in God, but he doesn't believe in the type of God that the white folks believe in. The white folks believe that God is an oversized white man sitting on a throne somewhere up in a place called heaven. The African traditional religion teaches you that there's a large number of gods. You have tree gods, sun gods, moon gods, earth gods, star gods, and all like that. And since a group of colleges make up a university, then a group of the little gods make up the big God. So you take all the little gods and merge them together, and you get the great God, which is the universe itself. It never started, it never was created, and it'll never have an end. And so therefore they said that the great God is nature itself, the universe, and they believed in a doctrine of the Trinity. God is the physical universe. Christ is the mental universe. And matter and mind interact and produce life. So you get a trinity of matter, life, and mind. And that's it. And to show you how we have been badly miseducated and misled, one of my friends is a great black scholar, Professor Yosef Ben Yochanan of Cornell University. Some of you probably met Dr. Ben. Ben went into the Metropolitan Museum in New York, where they have a very fine Egyptian collection. And the young lady is sitting at the desk. Sir, what can I do for you? Dr. Ben says, I would like to visit the African collection. The young lady says, sir, we do not have an African collection. And Dr. Ben says, I meant to say the Egyptian collection. Oh, yes, we have an Egyptian collection. But you know the ancient Egyptians were not white people. Now, the ancient Egyptians were, you know, yes, we have an Egyptian collection, but the ancient Egyptians were not Africans. So Ben pulls a map out of his pocket, shoves it right in this girl's face. Young lady, here's a map of Africa, and there's Egypt. Wouldn't you say that Egypt was in Africa? She said, I could say so. Ben says, do you say so? She said, no. Ben says, young lady, you are a jackass. The young lady became hysterical. She hollered for the manager. The manager came out and running and says, what's the trouble? Mr. Manager, this man just called me a jackass. So the manager says, what's the problem? Ben told her the story that he was looking for the Egyptian collection, and this young lady said that the Egyptians were not Africans. And he says, I have a map here, and here's Egypt, and Egypt is a part of Africa. Wouldn't you say so? The man says, well, you could say so. Do you? No. Ben says, you also a jackass. So he said, then he ducked out and got out of the vicinity because he was afraid they're going to call the police. And
yeah, that's a great little lecture. I always like that lecture from Mr. or Dr. John G. Jackson. I see some of your comments. I'm gonna get to well, it's mostly Trigger and a lot of Slaughter. I'll get to a lot of your comments, but one comment that stuck out to me early was something Trigger said. He said, I think we have to be careful if rugged individualism, I guess, of rugged individualism pertaining to African spiritual culture. It's not just about saving yourself, it's about how your governments are shaped too. So I agree with that comment. I think, though, based on the larger conversation, I think Dr. Jackson is saying that there's no savior coming to save you. You've got to figure it out. And I think the you is an inclusive you. I think it's a group you. You as Africans, you got to save yourselves. And to me, that implies y'all better come together and figure it out, right? That's how I view his comments there. But I think the idea of it's about the cosmos. This is what ancient Kemet was on. They had descriptors for various aspects of nature, and within those elements of nature, that's where you find your African God, and communing with nature, communing with the cosmos, being in alignment with the cosmos, understanding it is really the African concept of God, I think. So I think that's where he's coming from. So, for instance, we come here, we have these discussions. We're doing it because we've saved ourselves from the nonsense that's out there. And like tends to find like, we come together and we talk about these things as people who have saved themselves from the religion of white hegemony, right? Or as some people would say, white supremacy. We've saved ourselves from that. And now we're together. We're supposed to be planning, how do we save ourselves as a group? Buana, what are your thoughts on what Dr. Jackson spoke of?
Yes, it's interesting because usually these kinds of discussions I kind of like shy away from, but Dr. John G. Jackson kind of sound like me. Oh, actually, I sound like him. And it's interesting how he. By the way, let me say this first. You're right, Koku, when you said that in reference to you could be in terms of the individual, but you could also mean in a pluralized way. It could mean many people under that gambit of you. So it's not only in reference to the individual, it also could be in reference to the collective. So I just wanted to make that point. But yeah, when he defined in terms of spirituality, of Eastern or Western spirituality and how they look at it, and how the African mind looked at spirituality in reference to nature, and and how it kind of impacts the individual, and how the African mind used nature as a form, really as a form of an extension of himself. So it's like you are basically one with nature, and nature is one with you. We are in communion with nature. And I think that on a physical, tangible level, I don't see a problem with what he had to say. I gotta tell you, I don't see a problem with it. I don't see a problem with it at all. Well, Trigger Happy made a comment when he mentions atheistic atheistic religion is an oxymoron. And in a sense, that's kind of true, because religion have to do with belief in God, and atheism have to do without believing. So I understand where he comes with that, the way what standpoint where he comes with that. But when we use these kinds of definitions and terms, that what happens is a whole lot of disjointedness, because there's a lot of meaning with words. Because when we talk about God, what is that? To the mind of the Western mind, that is, as the brother was saying as Dr. John G. Jackson was saying in the video, is this big, man sitting on the throne all day long. I don't know why. He must have, his legs must be killing him. He's sitting down all day on the throne. And how does a big physical God have a throne? He's sitting down. He don't have to use the bathroom, because you're giving him human qualities sitting on the throne. Who built the throne, by the way? That's a whole other matter. But this idea, this concept of God or godness is looked at in one particular way with a group of people, but how the African mind looked at this idea of God was kind of very different. And I'm glad that he kind of teased that out in this conversation and lecture, because there needs to be some understanding with this idea of what is God. What is God? Who defines these terms? And usually who defines these terms, like John G. Jackson was alluding to, you have a bunch of people from all over the world sitting in prostrate worshiping this European white gentleman on the throne, and there's a propaganda in that. So I'm glad he tries to tease that out. Also, too, the African concept of God, I don't know if that he was talking historically, because the concept, I would say the concept doesn't stay the same. Sometimes it changes. And the African concept of God, it just depends on which African you're talking to, because you're putting a big blanket over a whole lot of grouping of different kinds of people within Africa itself. I understand he was referring to Kemet, but it's just when you tease these terms out, you see there's a whole lot of diversity in understanding, first of all, the African concept, which African you're talking to, and then you go into the whole God conversation. Well, what is God? Define that. Let's put some meaning behind that. So I'm glad he kind of defined the terms and teased it out, so we could have a better dialogue and discussion on the topic. But that's really what I wanted to say on this point.
I just want to bring up a thing that happened some years ago. A black woman, all of us saw it, because I remember we talked about it in passing before, or in fact, maybe it was an early Shooter Breeze topic. But there was a black woman who said, "Thank God for slavery, or else I would have been in Africa worshiping a tree." And that just tells me that this African person is completely out of their mind, because at least the tree gives me something tangible for my worship, so to speak. We are told to worship this Jewish guy, Cesare, what's his name? Cesare Borgia, right? To worship this guy. This guy who has nothing to do with us, nothing to do with our ancestors, even though a lot of black folks try to shoehorn that stuff into our thing as ours, but it's not. The idea is that what Dr. Jackson is trying to give is that, and by the way, I think black people really need this concept is you are the God. You are, if you are one with nature, you are one with God. You are the God. You have the power to free yourself from bondage. You have the power to create, to build, to make things happen. I think black folks need a little bit more of that injected into them, as opposed to this concept of let me go and cry out to the unseen, the unheard person up in the sky, sitting on the throne. You know, when we break it down, why are Africans the first healers and all that stuff? Because they went out there, one with nature, and they observed nature. They studied what are these herbs, what are these plants, why are they here, what benefit are they? And that's how they came around to start to heal themselves and stuff. But if you are sitting around, you're sick, and you crying out to some fictitious figure in the sky, you won't heal. You know what I mean? I think it's very, I'm going to use the term Buana used. Dr. Jackson teases out certain things. I think that's the conversation. What he's teasing at is where the real conversation on this premise of the African concept of God is. Let's welcome in our brother D-Web this week, man. D-Web, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Good, man. Hanging in there.
Yes, sir. So appreciate everybody. Appreciate the panel. Appreciate everybody out there leaving the comments. I've been reading through them, but yeah, I agree with much what was said previously. Particularly speaking about natural religions, essentially the concept that nature is quote unquote God. Which is not really atheism, so I don't agree with that. I think that was a little weird when he went into that part, because that's atheism is like random events, science, this Big Bang theory kind of whatever happened, right? I don't really agree with that. However, I think as far as when it comes to religion, I think the closest that you was kind of speaking above, that we are God, or we should incorporate the godly concepts that we speak of. I think the 5%ers kind of hit the closest to what you may be speaking of, where they embody this God body concept. The gods and the earths, the women are the mother of earth, and they give birth to the next generation, which mimics kind of life on earth or whatever. But I think that's the closest, without the kind of Muslim concepts they incorporate from that Nation of Islam connection back in the day. But honestly, to be honest though, to kind of incorporate everything, religion is kind of a thing where it's more so, I think, to unite a cultural group of people, particularly if you have like an empire type of shit, right? As we know, a lot of people have a lot of tribalistic nature about themselves, particularly if you have a big group, if you have these modern concepts known as a nation of empire, where you may incorporate different groups of people, different culture groups whatsoever, with a lot of things that they tried to do to incorporate get these people to unite would be a religion. That's hence why we have the modern day Christianity, right? They try to incorporate so many groups of people, including the paganism. They including pagan concepts into their religion, right? The concept of Christmas, like, why do you have this tree that you put decorations on? Easter, why is there a bunny? You know what I'm saying? Why is these things have nothing to do with Christianity, everything to do with paganism, right? Because they were trying to incorporate multiple groups into this, right? And if you don't look alike, if you don't have the same background, if you may be from a group of people who typically didn't like each other, the thing that can unite you is a religion, a shared religion, right? So that's kind of where we got this modern Christianity thing. And you can even see it in modern concepts, where we have the concept of NATO. If people really study the nature of NATO is nothing more than a bunch of Christian white countries that united, right, under the concept of Christianity and being white. If you look at NATO, there's nothing that these nations share outside of that, right? And they say it's a defense pact, but you just recently had Argentina, which is largely fucking been taken over by Germans back in the day. Did a white, the blonde hair, blue eyed Argentinians just did a petition to get into NATO, which makes absolutely no sense. Why a South American country needs to be in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? And that's part of what we are seeing right now. So religion can be a unifying force if you have a people that's not aligned in any other way. You just give them a religion, right? So I agree with that part. So essentially, it really doesn't matter what kind of concept we incorporate. It's just that if you want to unite the people, particularly like we have in the diaspora, where a lot of Black people are basically not connected with each other in any kind of way outside of being melanated, religion may be a thing that we can look to kind of unite each other, something like that, outside of just being oppressed, right? You need some kind of unifying force. I think that's something that could be looked into, but that's kind of my 2 cents, bro. Appreciate you.
I appreciate that, Webb. Yeah, I would say, that's how the Europeans, quote unquote, united, largely through Christianity and whatnot, right? But if that's how they united, then that's definitely not how we're going to unite. Not through, I think Dr. John Henry Clark said it best. How can the slave and the slave master pray to the same God, man, and expect, who do you expect that God to respond to? You know what I mean? And who is that God responding to currently, if we're being honest, right? But I think, one of the things that's also happening here is that I know Dr. Jackson is kind of known to be an atheist, but the truth of the matter is, if you don't believe in what white folks believe in, you're also an atheist to them. I'm saying that to say that these I think Bono was kind of getting at this a little bit. These terms and terminologies can be confusing, right? Because I don't believe in what they believe in, to them, I'm an atheist, or African spirituality. No, it's not that. It's that that I don't believe in that shit that they're talking about. And I'm more inclined to believe in the oneness with nature, the fact that our ancestors studied and revered nature. It shows in not just belief, but how they moved, how they navigated systems, right? Systems of how to build nations around this idea, how to etc. So that's what I think is the more important thing. Let's not get caught up in these terminologies that they put out there, but let's actually deal with what it really does for our people. For us, it would continue us as being caretakers of the ecosystem, caretakers of the world, in a sense, because that's really what we were. We look at these people who I would call godless, but who talk about Christianity and force that on others. We look at these people and they're destroying the planet, man. They are destroying the planet. Whereas the way we are and what we believe in and what's the word I'm trying to find? What's usual to us, we would never do this stuff to the planet, for example, right? Is there any other thoughts here from the panel on anything that was said in the chat or in the video?
I mean, what D-Web said was right. I mean, religion is a unifier. I hate to admit it, but religion is a unifier. I have seen, you see televangelists, black televangelists, people like T.D. Jakes and whatnot, Creflo Dollar. They are able to assemble and unify a whole lot of black folks, bro. They go through out the Americas, many of these Caribbean countries. I mean, and they unify a whole lot of people under that religious banner. And unlike our political organizations, where you see a lot of infighting, there's something in the religion itself that people put away their reason and they get under that banner of religion. What that belief is a powerful thing. I gotta tell you. And I would wish or hope that the propaganda on maybe African-centered religions wasn't so horrible, where we could have our own proselyters around the world who have that kind of draw and attention of the general black public. But since our religions have been so demonized, you know, you go into some country and you call yourself a Babalao, you know, go into a completely black Christian country and call yourself a Babalao, I mean, you are an outcast. You know, people will fight you tooth and nail. But under that banner of religion, in terms of Christianity, or even in some regards Islam, you have some brothers running around here. I mean, they're very organized, who consider themselves Hebrew Israelites in the Bahamas, marching, have a whole swath of black men, you know, under the Bible, and the Hebrew Israelites going around the Caribbean right now, unifying black men, unlike many other black political organizations. The UNI, they did it back in the day, but that was a political organization. But the religion, I don't know, brother. The religion, you know, the black folks, we click up on the religion, unlike any other kind of organizational force, man. I have never seen nothing like it, you know.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I would say if you don't give some people something to believe in, they're gonna make up something, right? We're seeing it in modern day too, like with celebrities or politicians or whatever. Like these are literally like deities they're almost worshiping at this point, right? Where they're following these people into whatever they say. I mean, look no further than the Crusades, man. You had Spain and England, who are typically enemies, right? They fought many wars throughout the years, and they united because, oh, we need to fight these Muslims over here and take the Holy Land, right? So it may not be your cup of tea, right? But we can all admit that religion is a unifying force, to the point where the fervor in religion will outdo your loyalty to a country. You know what I'm saying? That's probably the only thing that could trump that. So we can't deny that that is a powerful belief. So to just sit there and be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't believe in nothing, or we should, you know, get rid of these archaic thoughts or get rid of the Abrahamics. I agree with that part. However, you better give them something to replace that. Right. It's just a simple matter of fact. If you want to unite a people, there's nothing that gives people that unifying force more than believing in fucking something, having a common goal, having a common belief, having a common worship type system. So that's pretty much my final thoughts on that.
Yeah, my final thought on it is it's easy to really understand the idea of how religion was a unifier. People forget when Europe and them came together under, say, Christianity, the average life of a person was horrible. And they came and said, hey, man, if you believe in this thing, you will see heaven. You will wear gold slippers and white robes and all kind of shit in the afterlife. I heard someone say it not too long ago, it's a death cult, because it's all about you having to die to get this better life. And honestly, what's going on with black folks worldwide for the most part, something similar, something third world conditions or fourth world conditions, and this fear that this is it. And I can't do no better. But if I believe in this thing, I'll see something better on the other side. I'll wear gold slippers and white robes and sing in 8 octaves and all kind of shit after here. We don't have that fear mongering, but these people deal in fear mongering. That's where the battle really is. These people are telling you that if you believe in this and follow these rules, by the way, these people don't follow those rules. These people will go in a country and bomb and kill children and all kinds of stuff. They don't follow these rules, but they tell your ass to follow these rules, right? The idea of the African spirituality that I think Dr. Jackson is talking about will prevent you from destroying people, atomic bombs and all this type of stuff. The problem is, though, because these people were able to impose these religions on us for hundreds of years, they have the lead now. They have the lead now. And so anything you come with, like Webb is saying, you have to replace it with something. The problem is, if you look at African spirituality, it doesn't have that fear element. It doesn't talk about some afterlife and you'll see your lost loved ones and all that kind of stuff again. And that's really what gets us. And lastly, I'll say this too. The other thing that gets us too is we tend to have these traditions. Even I, who's sitting here talking to you guys about this, I grew up in an Anglican church. Right? My father, who died the other day, he was buried in an Anglican church, and he was a pro-black guy. You know what I mean? Because of these traditions that's handed down from loved ones to us, that's also why we are stuck in this stuff. But if we were to really step outside of ourselves and look at it, we'll see that the benefit of that is minimal, and it doesn't even relate to us at all. In the chat, Trid Happy says, basically, it's more of the problem of foreign practices. That's always been my position. But an international spirituality / culture system needs to be the alternative and nothing else. He says, yes, when you pair theological thinking with poverty, you create extreme subservience and complacency. Last thing he says, the only fear I can think of is you won't be venerated. If you do bad and don't have good character, you won't be remembered. Like bad leaders don't get statues. Maybe we can build from that, which is what Dr. Jackson was talking about. Right? You better live good in this life, be good, be a good person in this life for you to be as Trigger is talking about here, venerated. You know. Anyway, good discussion on that. And by the way, these are not disses to your tradition that was passed down to you, that was forced on someone in your lineage before. This is just sober conversation about things that should matter to us, a bunch. Should read topic number 2. Should read topic number 2 says there is an app for that too. This takes us to X. Make sure you guys can see my screen. You can. Only thing is my audio just dropped out. Give me a second to fix that. Make sure you hit the like button for me. Those of you who are present can hear my voice. Hit the like button. Make sure that we get those numbers up. So we go into a tweet from Jean-Jacques Dessalines. He says a Middle Eastern app to buy African domestic workers. Let's watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
Our BBC News Arabic team posted a husband and wife looking to buy a domestic worker in Kuwait.
Ready?
Yes. An app called For Sale is used to buy and sell domestic workers alongside cars and TVs. The BBC team spoke to 57 users of For Sale who were selling their domestic workers online for thousands of pounds. Most women had no knowledge they were being advertised online and then sold. A new ad appears on For Sale. An African domestic worker for $3,800 US.
ألو مرحبا. عم بتصل فيك بخصوص العاملة الأفريقية على فورسيل. أنا شغال صوت حلال ومشوشة. تطلب شيء وآدمية؟ في مجال شوفها أتعرف عليها أنا وزوجي هون. هو هلا حدي عم نتصل فيك. حياكم الله. شكرا.
The undercover team get ready to meet the seller. First exit. Nothing could prepare them for what happens next.
الله يسلمك. الله يسلمك. تمام وأنت؟ هاي. والله العظيم ما كانت تستاهل. شوفي هذا بابا هذا ماما. اسمها ايه اسمها عربي لأنها مسلمة. من غانا ولا من وين؟ أنا أنسى من كذا ما أعرف. غانا فينا مدري شنو.
من وين؟ غينيا. اوكي.
كل الناس كل الخدم. بس قرر كان بالها بيت خفيف.
قد ايه عمري؟
ماما هذه ماما هذا بابا.
قد ايه عمري؟
أقول لكم الصدق اترك الأوراق. أقول لكم الصدق يعني عشان
We're shocked to find this woman offering to sell us a child. The young girl seems withdrawn and confused.
Combien? 16 ans.
مسكين حسيت انا شوي هيك شو انتيوز شوي هيك.
هلا هي بتصدقها صوتها ما بيطلع بتصدقها.
The policeman and the woman who tried to sell us Fatu did not provide us with a statement, and no legal action has been taken against them. The Kuwaiti government declined to comment further on Fatu's case.
Modernization, right? You don't have to go to slave markets anymore. There's an app for that now. I'm tired of being tired, man. I really am.
Yes, tired of being tired. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that, you know,
Our BBC News Arab.
Like he said at the end, modernization. There's an app for these things now, and you know what's interesting is the people who are telling the story are telling the story as, oh, there's an app for buying domestic workers in the Middle East. What do you think a 16-year-old girl from Guinea in the Middle East is doing? Does she look like she's looking for maid work? She's being sold. She's being sold as a slave, man. Just say what it is. But this is all the little subterfuge that these people deal in, as opposed to just saying it outright. Even the people reporting on it aren't telling you it's modern day slavery. Webb, what say you to what you just saw?
Well, for those who still, you know, love the legacy of the Obamas and the Hillary Clintons of the world and shit, this is your legacy, right? You know, this is, if people talk about Libya now has open market slave trade and they're not trading other Arabs, they're trading Africans. That's what's happening. Now, granted, they're talking about the Middle East in this, but that's basically the pipeline. You still have the pipeline of where these slaves are coming from, right? So yeah, there you have it. For better, for worse, whether you like Gaddafi or not, he kept some of this shit in check. You know, he did have some kind of connection to the natural Africans there, you know, the native born Africans. So, and this also kind of that mentality also, you know, we talked about the rugged individualism, the capitalist systems or whatever. This is thinking you can have a better life in a country where you are the minority. That is equivocally false. Any country where you are the minority, you will be extorted, you know, you'll be exploited, I should say. That's just what it is. Like, population is power, numbers are power. We should get back to that. That is a most simple concept you can have is numbers is power. The more of you, the more of your people, the more of your tribe, more of people that look like you, the better off you will be anywhere in the world. You feel me? And to keep it real with you, I don't think the Arabs get enough vitriol for their part in the slave. Their slave trade was brutal compared to the transatlantic slave trade, right? Arabs never have cared about anybody outside of other Arabs, particularly Muslim Arabs, if we're talking modern day. So this is more of the same. The only thing you can do if you are tired of this, you got a couple options. You can pick up the rifle, or you can ensure that your people don't see this other country as a way to better themselves, right? Stay where the hell you at. Raise your children to believe that they have that national pride, to have that tribalist, the African pride, where they want to be in a country full of Africans. You feel me? A country full of black folk, because otherwise you're going to be exploited. It's simple as that, yo. So that's pretty much all I got, man.
Appreciate that, Webb. I'll also add, by the way, connecting it to the last prompt, this is what a lot of black folks are unified under. This Islam. And Webb brought up a timely reminder. We forget, I think. And it's so hard to understand why we forget. we forget, maybe because it was done largely on East Africa, but to me that's a cop out. We really forget that we went through about 1,500 years of slavery under these people. African men taken and castrated immediately and all this type of shit, which is why you barely see them in the Middle East like that. You know what I mean? Like, we really don't give them enough hell. We do beat up on Christians, but even that, as we see, we deflect away from that. And I think maybe we just came to a point, maybe a long time ago, we just deflected away from the Arab brutalization. You know? But a lot of our people, as y'all said, is united underneath this bullshit here. This has to stop. Buana, what say you?
I mean, Koku, what can I say? The world is an effed up place, brother. You know, the world have its good parts and it have its effed up parts. And it's unfortunate that sometimes us as black people, we volunteer to take the roles of subserviency and exploitation. We volunteer to do it. Now, let me put a caveat to this. I have never been in a situation where I've been so desperate that I've been willing to sell my labor or even my body just to eat food, brother. I've never been in that situation before. You know? So I'm not in these people's shoes. But there should be something. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that I don't know what the opportunities are for the people who have to put themselves in these situations to eat food and provide care and support for their own personal families. But there must be another way. There must be another way. As far as the app itself, for me this personally, this is human trafficking, you know. And like as D-Web say, the Arabs and the Persians and the people in the Middle East, they don't get enough heat for what they do to the black man in these countries. They don't get enough heat. That's why I'm so mad at Americans. Anyways, but anyways, I just think that there should be something done with the governments who are responsible for these people, to prohibit them, to stop them from going to these countries to engage in these types of activities, man. You need to put some more barriers in place to stop these things from happening. That's all I could say, man. Or for people who have the money, buy the slaves, buy the black people, buy them and put them in more advantageous positions if you could, in more humane positions. I don't know. I'm not saying that to support this app and the company who's promoting these things, but you gotta try to see if you can get them out of subserviency and sexual exploitation, you know, and you gotta go through the means of buying them. I guess you gotta do it that way, because the world is an effed up place, man. And sometimes you gotta respond in kind, but like I said, I think that the governments need to put a barrier to these kinds of things and happening, because the world is just a messed up place sometimes, you know. But that's all I have to say about this topic, you know.
Yeah, where's the black Muslims? Where's the black Muslims but I know where they are, and they're not in solidarity. All that unifying, Islam is unifying all that stuff. They're not unified with these other black people. They're unified with this Arab man. This is the problem I have with this stuff, you know. And this young girl in the video, to be quite frank, she's 16 years old. I don't think she went to this place to be put on an app. It sounds like she was just trafficked straight up out of Guinea somewhere. Because they even mentioned she was like dazed and confused. You know, where is the black Muslim in these places or nearby to these places? Where are they to give these people heat for this type of stuff? That's exactly it. Crickets, nothing. You know, and we talking about that's how we gotta. Oh man. Anyway,
and you know something, Koku. You know something, brother. I don't know if the Nation of Islam knows about these things or have ever spoken on these kinds of topics before, but they should. They should, man. You're representing yourself as an Islamic organization in the West, and you know that there are many Muslims who come to the country and support your organization. You need to speak on these topics, make these things more known, because I would have never known about this until you told me about this. But I'm sure the brothers within those communities, they know about it. So if you're in the West, you need to talk about these things, because I'm sure it's not only happening in Muslim countries or Middle Eastern countries. I'm sure this is worldwide. Human trafficking is worldwide. So I'm sure it's happening all over the place. You got to talk up on these kinds of topics, man.
Well, just to kind of hit on that, because, you know, I do have some family that was Nation of Islam and Fruit of Islam and stuff like that. They're not recognized by Muslims. Like, they're considered like a fringe organization, because they believe like they believe that their founder Elijah Muhammad was like God embodied, right? That's like a no-no, right? So they are not considered Muslim by them. They don't operate. The only person who did business with them was Libya and Gaddafi. That's the only people that did business with them, right? Outside of that, because he was about overthrowing the America, essentially, right? He sent a lot of weapons and shit to America, to the Nation of Islam. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That just kind of hit on that. And honestly, if I've been to Saudi Arabia, dog, like I spent many months in Saudi Arabia. When you get there, one thing you do know is that first and foremost, like a lot of these people that get there, they may advertise as indentured servants or whatever. Like they advertise them as maids or whatever, but once they get there, they take their passports. They literally take their passports, so they can't leave, right? So they may go in there under one guise, but once they get there, it's like, okay, you here, right? And they're never gonna prosecute a Muslim for doing any crimes against an African. Particularly as me, as a, you know, quote unquote Black American. When I got there and I presented my passport as opposed to a lot of Africans, because I met a lot of Africans there, you're treated absolutely different, right? The power of the petrodollar. So it's a lot of nuance in these like Muslim countries that people don't recognize. They're very much driven by the profit, by power, by money or whatever, right? So you can look like however you want to look like. If you got the money, they don't give a fuck, right? You got fucking you know, you got Mayweather over there right now, who ain't a Muslim, don't has no kind of religious beliefs or whatever, but he goes over there and they treat him like a rock star, right? So these countries are very much depending on your economic place. They take very much like European countries, whereas how your passport, stamp on your passport, also, you know, how much money you have, et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of give a little background on that. So
D-Rab, you was well respected in Saudi Arabia then, because they know that you were American, Black American or American. You was well respected when you went.
Yeah, you get treated much different, bro. I went to places, the embassies and shit like that. You're offered alcohol, you know, alcohol is quote unquote, you know, forbidden over there. Hey, you want some, you know what I mean? Like, you are treated different. So they operate differently depending on who you are. You know what I'm saying? And Africans are honestly treated the worst. Probably next up on the list is Filipinos, right? Filipinos are kind of in the same boat over there, where they go over there. And also in these Muslim countries, they don't like their women to work. So they import a lot of help. They import a lot of nurses. They import a lot of other people because they don't want their women to quote unquote work. They put them on the pedestals to a certain extent. So you'll meet a lot, but Africans are treated the worst. Next up is the Filipinos. There's a lot of Filipinos people don't know over there and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a hierarchy. Wherever you're from is how you're treated over there.
Hey, Webb, this is off topic, but this is off the topic currently. But there's this the black guy with the dreads with the locks, who's a sniper. I can't think of his name right now, but he was saying how, like, over there, you see those guys, those Muslim men, they're kind of gay, or, you know, engaged in a lot of, like, you know, gay activities. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I've seen more of that in like Afghanistan and places like that. Whereas if you can't, everything's transactional over there, right? So if you can't buy a wife, if you can't afford a wife, they engage in a lot of like homosexual shit over there. People don't know, but that's what goes on. So if you can't afford a wife, that's essentially what you do. And also there's a lot of like fucking with boys type shit. Everybody heard the saying, right? Like, you know, the wife is for kids and the boys are for fun. They really do engage in that type of shit.
Wow. So they had a lot of man boy loving up. Yeah.
Yeah, like literally, bro. I'm not even joking. Like, you get a briefing before you get out there, because, you know, what I was doing out there, like, you may have to like take somebody prisoner or some shit, right? And it's like, we had a briefing and I thought it was a joke, you feel me? Because the dude came in as this lawyer dude, and he's like, if you capture anybody that's under the age of 16 or whatever, you got to imprison them. Don't put them in a cell with men because of this and that. And you be sitting there thinking, because you think of the tenets of Islam and Muslim, like, what? But nah, that's really how it is, bro. Like they really get down like that. You see a lot of fucking, I seen Ramadan, at the end of Ramadan, they had this big party, right? Had this big party. And then depending on, the status of the people at the party, they don't commingle men and women, right? So you'll see a fucking party and there'll be dudes with slow dancing with dudes. I'm not talking like fucking like dancing, like slow dancing with other dudes. I've seen this shit with my own eyes.
With big beds, 2 big bed dudes.
Yeah, 2 hairy dudes, slow dancing, bro. Sitting each other out, bro. Like that's common out there. So yeah, it's just a lot of weird shit, man.
Yeah, I'd like to get people who I know to tell me things about some of these places like that. The sniper guy broke that down. He also mentioned like after Ramadan, you see all kind of faggotry going on after Ramadan. There's I forget what they call them now. Maybe the chat may have put it up, but they got like this ladyboy thing where they have these young fellas. They kind of groom, they kind of make them out to be like women. They dance for men and all.
You talking about Bakabazi?
Bakabazi, right? And then thanks for that. And then when they get a certain age, they kind of kick them out, and they're like homeless and all kind of shit like that. But Allah, what's it called again? But Allah be praised, right? Allah be praised. This is why we got to get away from this shit, man. These people, this shit is not sincere. Anyway, real quick before I go to Brother Bakari, in the chat, Trigger said, this is why I try to keep the Palestinians conflict a strategy. Some leftists try to say we are kid with the Arabs, but the Arab world does shit like this. Absolutely. A lot of slaughter. I like this comment. He said whites and Arabs are the problem, period. Trigger says, now granted, Palestinians specifically aren't owning maids on average because they are being colonized, but I see the Arab world as a unit, and they have done, and I guess what they have done is wrong in many ways. He says Arabs and South Asians get their racism from shared ancestry with white peoples. Indo-Europeans mixed with original black populations, so their culture got to these places, zones, and confluences. He says, yeah, black Muslims defend Arabs very strongly. When it comes to the issue of North Africa, leftists, Muslims, and Arabs defend the Arab world in so many different ways. You see, a lot of slaughter. I like a lot of slaughter, man. Also say, see if Allah will come and collect them. Man, so many good comments here. I can't get to all of them, but keep the comments going. I'll try to read through as many of them as I can. Just keep them coming. In the meantime, let's welcome in our brother Bakari to the panel. Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm great, my man. How about you? How about the panel?
Good.
Chad, I'm gonna be honest, man. I missed most of the things. I'm just reading what's in app for buying and selling African slaves in the Middle East.
Well, hold tight, Bakari, hold tight. Let me play it again. It's not too long of a video. Let me play it again so you can get a good idea of what it's about. Okay.
Big team posed as a husband and wife looking to buy a domestic worker in Kuwait.
Ready?
Yes. An app called For Sale is used to buy and sell domestic workers alongside cars and TVs. The BBC team spoke to 57 users of For Sale who were selling their domestic workers online for thousands of pounds. Most women had no knowledge they were being advertised online and then sold. A new ad appears on For Sale. An African domestic worker for $3,800 US.
الو مرحبا. كيفك؟ عم بتصل فيك بخصوص العاملة الأفريقية. على فرسي أنا شعران صوت حلال ومشوشة وآدمية في مجال شوفها أتعرف عليه أنا وزوجي هون هو هلا حد عم نتصل فيك حياكم الله شكرا.
The undercover team get ready to meet the seller.
First exit.
Nothing could prepare them for what happens next.
الله يسلمك. الله يسلمك.
تمام وأنت؟ هاي. والله العظيم ما كانت تستاهل. شوفي هذا بابا هذا ماما. اسمها ايه اسمها عربي لانها
من غانا ولا
من انا انسى من كذا ما غانا غينا مدري شنو.
من وين؟
غينيا.
اوكي. خلينا ناخذ الخدم. بس قرر كان بدها بيت خفيف.
قد ايه عمري؟
ماما هذه ماما هذا بابا.
قد ايه عمري؟
اقول لكم الصدق اترك الاوراق اقول لكم الصدق يعني عشان ما أصدقش.
We're shocked to find this woman offering to sell us a child. The young girl seems withdrawn and confused.
كلمة ويا ماما.
Je vais te parler en français. Tu as quel âge? Combien? 16 ans. شكرا.
مسكين ايه حسيت انا شوي هيك شو انتيوز شوي هيك.
هلا هي بتستحي صوتها ما بيطلع بتستحي. The policeman and the woman who tried to sell us Fatu did not provide us with a statement, and no legal action has been taken against them. The Kuwaiti government declined to comment further on Fatu's case.
Modernization, right? You don't have to go to slave markets anymore. There's an app for that now. Yeah,
There it is. Shooter Reads topic number 2 says there's an app for that too. Brother Kai, you've seen it. 16-year-old girl from Guinea. Dazed and confused as they described. Being sold as a domestic worker, but let's be real, you know.
Yeah, they probably would take the passport, won't be able to leave the house. See, this is why I say the revolution need to be done on Africa, because somebody is on the continent working with these people who's probably some B-Rabs. A B-Rab, if you don't know what it is, a black man want to be an A-Rab. These black Muslims could be, somebody have to be on the other end working, sending people over there. But you see how people organize to oppress and suppress and depress and any kind of oppressor you can think of, what they can do to black people and what they can get away with African people. When I heard D-Web talking, now me personally, I haven't been to the Middle East. I was in the military. I had friends that went. I had an opportunity to go for a job over in Djibouti. And I met a guy who was in Djibouti. And what D-Web was saying when he was talking about how Africans are treated and how, say, an African-American will be treated different because of the American passport. So from what my guy was telling me, and I also have a high school friend that ended up going over there, but from what my homeboy was telling me, like if you don't have that American passport and you black, you could you could possibly be in that same position as the African. But here's, as our brothers and sisters from the continent, but here's the thing, man, when are we going to fight back? When are we going to revolt over in our home? When are we going to stop running to other places? We know the history of what these people have done to us. Arabs, white folks, don't care who the hell you say. We know the history of what they have done. When are we going to stop running to these people thinking they're going to make our situation better when they are the ones that put you in this situation? They blow up everything you have, take everything from you, then give you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich while you're hungry and say, see, we're making life better for you. And for some strange reason, we still fall for the same thing, saying we're going to go here and they're going to make our life better. With everything, with every resource and all of the money that's on the continent of Africa, we shouldn't have to leave for nothing. We shouldn't have to leave our continent for nothing unless you just want to. And I understand some people might want to leave to go see other places because you got something else you want to do. But that's why I say that's where the real revolution is. Not saying there won't be a real revolt here, but that's where the real revolution is, man, because it's just like, where do we have to go? We don't have many places to go, even on the continent. I'm not saying we can't go, but if you look and see how things are done, can a group of us really go there and say, oh, we going 100,000 of us, can we go and we're going to make this? I don't know, because they haven't taken care of, they're not taking care of what they're supposed to take care of there. And we are, and like you say, then you're going to have the black Muslims who's going to take up for these Arabs, right? Like I would meet some people from the Nation of Islam who would take up for, not all, but I met some that would. You find, I'm going to tell you our mindset when it comes to these people. Y'all know these people with the red chicken buckets that's on that call themselves Moors, right? And when the Moor talk, they say they are a Moorish American Muslim. Have you ever heard them use the word Muslim? Muslim is and in 2026 we still accept this term. Muslim was the derogatory term where black people couldn't be a Muslim because Allah don't allow black people to be in Jannah, don't allow black people in Jannah. But in 2026 we still have people here that would accept that term. We were that for a long time. This is something that we need to do something about that, but we're going to have to do something about the situation so our people don't always have to go to people who have historically done the same thing to you. And in 2026, they are still doing it. I yield the mic.
No, well stated. Well stated. I like that term, B-Rab, too. Yeah, but well stated. Yeah, I remember growing up reading in literature and stuff, the term Muslim. It wasn't until Bakari told me what that distinction meant. If you go back and you listen to like even Malcolm X and them, you hear them say Muslim. You know what I mean? And I never knew that's what that was. That's a very interesting concept. But yeah, I think Bakari hits the nail on the head. Our homeland has to do some straightening too. Our homeland needs to do some straightening too. And so, you know, the idea of repatriation is a great one, but what are you repatriating to? Is it a burning house or is it a mansion? You know, and that's something that we have to reconcile with. Does anyone on the panel have any last thoughts on this?
What I have to say about it, lastly, you know, just to be brief, the Africans who was brought to the West, because he was talking about the problems on the continent, and I gotta tell you, brother, you know, I've been on some of these African panels, and they get into these discussions on what tribe you represent, and they'll have these big internal battles. And I'm saying that there's a greater enemy at your doorstep. You can't be sitting around all day talking about what tribe you represent, brother, because that keeps you broken, and people can take advantage of your divisiveness, your divisions, and due to the fact that we were forced to come into the West, we had to work together. A tribe from the Ashanti had to work with a tribe from one other nation. You know, another nation had to work with one other nation to exist, to survive. You know, so for us, really, it was an advantage. Now, I'm not saying thank God for slavery because it took us out of Africa. I'm saying that there are some things that we learned in the greater world or in the West that we don't have time to dispute and argue over so-called tribal alliances. I think that there are some groups who are trying to reinstate these things with that nonsense, but it makes you weaker. It makes you weaker, and you'll be arguing for centuries on some nonsense while people from the outside coming in to take advantage of you. You know, it's hustling backwards. It's hustling backwards, and I'm happy that this video was shown. because it's showing that our divisive nature is really going to lead to our downfall. You must get together collectively. You must. It's a must, brother. But that's my spiel, man.
One, I'll just add real quick. Sorry, Bakari.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll wait till you finish. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'll just add real quick that tribe stuff is kind of like the religion stuff, right? You guys said religion is the unified. Well, they'll argue that the tribe is the unified. We got to get rid of this stuff, man. We got to get rid of all of this stuff, man. We got serious work to do. Bakari, go ahead, though.
Okay, I'm trying to find his name because I don't ever remember his name. But remember me telling you about the documentary? His name is Abdul Rahman Ibrahim Sori, right? There's a documentary called A Prince Among Slaves. He was from Mali, and he was from this, and he was so rich, and he had this, and he literally helped Europeans, right? He did. But then he ended up a slave in Natchez, Mississippi. Even though he would help and he would brag on being a Muslim and he could read the Quran and speak this language, and he was educated, when he met a European that he helped who had moved to Natchez, Mississippi, right? The guy said, "I'm gonna help you get free." Said he was a Moor, because at this time the United States did have a treaty with Morocco, and I keep telling people at this time, whatever black people was in Morocco, the Arabs had taken Morocco, right? Well, anyway, if he had to say he was a Moor, say he a Moor, he get freedom, and they didn't want Morocco to be mad with him because slaves were coming through Morocco, right? And they were working with Morocco. You know why he never went to Morocco? Because he said if he go to Morocco, he'll be a slave. Even though he's a Muslim, he speak Arabic, and he tried to be just like them. He never went. He stayed in the free states, and they put a bounty on him over here. But he would not go to Morocco because he said they know they would. He know they enslaved African people, even if you were a Muslim. So when he made it to the free state, he had to admit and say, he was not a Moor. And they couldn't do nothing to him because he was in a free state. But they looked for him, and they had a bounty on his head for a long time here. But my point is, even that, he was still a Muslim. He was still small. He bragged. He could speak Arabic. He could do all that, but wouldn't go to Morocco because they were enslaved Africans, even if they were Muslim. Just think about that. I yield the mic.
Good stuff, Brother Bakari. In the chat, Trigger Happy mentioned something he mentioned before, but I didn't know the name of the channel. He said Nafakari right now probably has the best show on the internet displaying what Indo-European culture is like, with various news stories of different varieties. Everyone should check it out. I guess the channel's called The Culture. Confirm that for me, Trigger, if you can. The culture. But on this topic, I'm going to give Matron in the chat. Make sure you guys support our Matron. I'm going to give her the last word here. She says, hope is a hell of a drug. Black equals African people are sold on the idea that there is something, quote unquote, better for them in the arms of other people. There isn't. Stop hoping that there will be. We know better. And I appreciate that comment.
Before you close it out, Goku, real quick, man, very brief. Back to your talk about the tribalism, just very fast. Like I said, being from Chicago, and even relating to anything else you said, right? A lot of people don't realize, like, these conversations we have here, these are rare conversations. These conversations don't happen in an average place, right? In the average place where you're just working and you're going to work and you're trying to make $1 and you're trying to eat and stuff like that, right? Where I come from, like the west side of Chicago, right? The only thing your day-to-day consists of, like, if I'm a vice lord, you know, I got to walk to school in a bunch of GD neighborhoods, right? You're not really seeing like this overall thing. And I'm sure even in the Caribbean, no matter where you're from, right? We can't just say like tribalism is not a thing. We need to get rid of it. We can easily say that, right? Because a lot of people here are traveled and a lot of people have went places, but it's a lot of stuff where you may have a legitimate or what the prevailing conflict of the day is your beef with the people in the next town over, right? So I think at the end of the day, the thing that needs to be done is talent needs to actually go back to Africa, like the brother Oni did, right? I got a homie just moved to Kenya, right, or whatever, right? At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to get rid of particularly these tribal conflicts with a bunch of people who don't know it's nothing outside of their area. Most people don't leave their country. Most people don't need a neighborhood. No, most people don't go 20 miles outside of where they live. So, you know, I just want to just kind of make that point that, you know, sometimes we can lose sight of that. The world is a lot smaller to certain people. I wouldn't know shit if I didn't take my ass to the recruiter office to see what the fuck outside of Chicago, what was going on in the world, and actually travel to these places. Most people don't get to travel to these places to even see that in Saudi Arabia, you might get your passport took and you get to stay there, right? So I just want to say that, you know, we kind of need to have that perspective. And also maybe, I think at the end of the day, your best bet may be to repatriate to a black area. So that's my 2 cents, man.
D Web, let me ask you a question, brother, because what you say is absolutely true, and because most people don't venture 20 miles outside of their area. But with the introduction of the internet, the fact that you could speak to people from all over the world, do you think that has a impact in terms of just day-to-day people and how they interact with people? Because you could get on this internet and speak to people from everywhere. Do you think that has an impact?
No, because you got to have the interest to do that. You have to seek out that. If you don't have the inherent, like the majority of people I know, like on Facebook or whatever, they're not seeking Africans to talk to see what their daily life is. They want to see the fucking funny skit. They want to know what their neighbor's doing. They want to know what their friends are up to. They're not necessarily seeking out knowledge. That in itself is a rarity, to be able to have that curious mind. That's goes back to like maybe building a family unit where you emphasize to have those conversations. People don't realize a lot of white folks emphasize traveling to their children at a young age. They save up whatever pennies they can, at least the middle to upper class white folk, and they take their kids places and they show them places. And maybe they got some ancestors in Ireland. They go to fucking Ireland. They go to Europe. That doesn't really happen in the black community, where we don't emphasize that travel bug. We don't emphasize that. So a lot of things are very local, very, you know, compartmentalized, right? Where we don't even have this. So if you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day, right? I don't think the vast majority of people are seeking those conversations with other cultural groups to even have that knowledge. So unfortunately.
Any thoughts on Webb? Any thoughts? Because I think you do make a good point. Even here in America, they have these. They used to have, like in New York here, they used to have these programs where they were putting up free Wi-Fi hotspots in certain areas. But when you peep the area, I've talked about it on Shoot the Breeze before. When you peep the areas that they were unrolling this stuff, it was always white areas. They never came down in black areas. And something I heard Oni say one time, not about that, but I could apply the logic to that. People don't really put up resources in communities where there's not going to be a return on that investment, where the people are going to use those resources like free Wi-Fi to actually search up things, to research things and to give themselves knowledge and stuff like that. So I understand your point. There's people, like even where me and Buana's from, I know for sure in my neighborhood, a lot of people aren't looking up this kind of conversation. They're worrying about the next chicken in the bag to eat, the next conch snack, the next whatever, next gal to grind, whatever. They thinking about that mostly. So you make an excellent point. But my question to you is, because sometimes I think I believe we have to start thinking about solutions too. Do you per se have an idea? How do we get people to be interested in these things? For example, you mentioned the GDs and vice lords and stuff. How do we get them to understand that the fight ain't really between y'all two groups of black people? There's a larger presence at work here and that's who you must turn your attention to. How? I mean, do you have any idea how would you get through to these folks?
Kind of starts at it starts at home to me, man. You know, you have a lot of people on this panel have children, right? It starts with you instilling that in your children, you know, teaching them about African spirituality and having racial pride and having pride in where you're from. And then from there, you just once you get home together, then you start to mentor. You go out, you know, you go out and join organizations like Lero used to say, join an organization, right? But you go out there or you mentor children, even the people in your family. You have to start low because those are the people that's going to listen to you at a certain point. I keep it real with you. Once a person is in that street life at a certain age, probably as early as 10, 11, 12, they kind of already gone, man. It's sad to say that they kind of already gone, right? Even if you come from that lifestyle and you still try to instill it, it's a good 50% of people that's just gonna push you out the way. They're not even gonna listen to what you say. I tell you right now, when I go home, I just was home in December, you know what I'm saying? And I was in areas that's rough. You feel me? That's where I'm from. So that's why I have to go 90% of the time. You even have to change the way you talk. You have to change the way you speak, because if you speak a certain way and you use certain words, right, they're not even gonna listen to what you're saying because they're gonna figure at the point you whitewashed, right? So there are certain people that come from those neighborhoods and that come from those areas that can get through to those people to a certain extent, but I'm not sure if that's the best way of your using your resources at that point, right? Because you honestly need to get to the youth. You need to get to them earlier than that. Maybe you can talk to a few of them, maybe 2 out of the 50 people you can talk to at that point might listen to you. But I think it's far better to focus on the future, focus on the youth that's coming up right now, than try to like save a bunch of people who may not be trying to hear what you're trying to say. You feel me? It's better to have a stronger, I'd rather have 5 solid, strong thinking people than like 50, you know, sheeple. So that's kind of how I feel about it. It may be a little bit pessimistic to some people, but that's, to be a realist, man, that's kind of how it is, bro. If you ever been to these type of neighborhoods, you know what I'm saying?
No, I feel the same
me
way.
personally, I
Give
would have
D
thought
Webb a
that.
hand with your which they give D Webb a hand when he said it start at home. That's exactly where it starts. Thank you, D Webb, because that's exactly where the hell it started. It have to start at home. That's all I wanted to say.
Me personally, I would have thought that because Chicago is an international city, it's like New York City, you know. So because
it's not, bro. I'm gonna stop.
It's not. Okay,
it's very segregated. Chicago's one of the most segregated cities in the United States. The Midwest has been like that. Redlining was huge, and it still exists there. So it's not. We not kumbaya in Chicago. If anything's a lot of beef. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Man, real good conversation there. A lot of Slaughter says all those people are lost. We can't keep trying to save people who don't want to be saved. He goes on to say the adults who know and their children are all that matters. Well, that's the thing. Because, I mean, based on this conversation, most of Africa is lost there. You know what I mean? With the exception of a few pockets here and there. But, I mean...
I don't know, Cooper. I don't think they lost, though. I think they don't. It's the difference between when you was raised to think a certain type of way, to be in a certain mind state of murder, kill, as opposed to people who just don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's why people. What I mean. Yeah, so I think it's a difference in there. Sorry to cut you off.
No. I said lost, but I meant it along the lines of I said lost because that's what the comment said, but I meant it along the lines of they just don't know. And based on the conversation we had here, they're not gonna just magically raise up and try to know, try to understand what's going on above and beyond them. But my issue with that is then at that point, man, this whole concept of unity and Pan-Africanism is dead. If we take it down.
No, Coco. You still have to do the work, brother. You still have to do the work.
I'm not saying not to do the work. I'm just saying, based on that thinking, the logical thought next will be, well, damn, this thing is dead. You know, but like you said, you still have to do the work. And like Webb said, and Bakari agreed, it starts at home. You got to start that work at home, and hopefully we get enough people. One day we'll have a groundswell of people, a threshold of people, you know. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this prompt before I go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3? All right. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 is going to have me reading a little bit, so if you don't like my voice, well, you have to bear with it. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says Africa is finally looking to homegrown artillery. That comes with an article from The Conversation. It says, the title says, Africa's militaries have always relied on imported weapons, while a shift to homegrown defense is now underway. Africa's militaries are built on imported power. Foreign countries such as China, Russia, the United States, Turkey, and France dominate Africa's weapons market. Between them, they supply everything from small arms to attack helicopters, unmanned systems, and communications and equipment. The results are often quite poor. From the Sahel to Somalia, weapons and equipment supplied from abroad breaks down quickly, sits idly for lack of maintenance, or requires expertise that local forces are not trained to sustain. At the same time, insurgents on motorbikes equipped with AK-47s and improvised explosives gain the upper hand. These issues are quite often due to corruption or mismanagement by African militaries, a problem that has been extensively documented by scholars. Now a quiet revolution is underway. Having spent collectively decades researching and working with African militaries, we have noticed a growing trend of discontent with reliance on external actors to build their security forces. As a result, African governments are becoming more determined to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers and build capabilities they can control, maintain, and adapt. Numerous African countries like Nigeria to Kenya to Morocco are embracing a combination of disruptive new technologies and partnerships to localize defense supply chains and build local military capabilities. Morocco, the country which has pursued the strategy most successfully, has managed to triple its arms exports over the last few years and is on its way to becoming a defense manufacturing hub. Lowered barriers to innovation are offering African countries an opportunity to shift from being security consumers to being producers and even exporters of military equipment and technology. This shift could enable African militaries to more sustainably project and maintain force and capture value from a growing global arms market. On paper, imported military equipment promises cutting-edge capabilities. In practice, it often delivers frustration. Nowhere is this clearer than in Mali. Beginning in 2021, Russia supplied Bamako with a quote-unquote small air force of dozens of attack helicopters, transport planes, and other combat aircraft as part of his expanding security role in the Sahel. This air force no longer exists. The two Sukhoi 25 fighter jets Mali received were lost within months. Of 8 Mi-35M and Mi-171 attack helicopters, only one remained serviceable within a year of delivery. Mali's army was unable to maintain them. Meanwhile, rebel groups using stolen rifles, lightweight anti-aircraft guns, and homemade artillery overran military outposts and encircled Bamako. Even Africa's better resourced militaries struggled. South Africa operates one of the continent's most advanced fleets of fighter aircraft, yet only half of its Swedish-built JAS Gripen aircraft and 7 of its 39 Oryx helicopters were serviceable as of mid-2024 because of parts, storage, and maintenance gaps. South Africa's state-owned arms manufacturer Denel, once a world-class defense and aerospace producer, has declined over the past decade amid financial distress, governance failures, and state capture, leading to liquidity shortages, unpaid suppliers, and a loss of skilled personnel. Ghana has one of the region's most capable fleets, but many of its ships remain unserviceable. Ambitious plans to expand the fleet have been delayed owing to prohibitive costs. One modern corvette costs $200 million US, or half of Ghana's 2024 military budget. Wow. So the homegrown solutions. The growing appeal of homegrown solutions was on display in August 2025 when Nigeria convened 37 African defense chiefs to discuss how to develop local security solutions. Nigeria's chief of defense at the time, General Christopher Musa, urged his counterparts to innovate on their own terms by investing in cyber defense, artificial intelligence, and indigenous military technology. Nigeria has already begun to do so. It is one of the few but growing number of African countries with a cyber warfare command. The country is expanding local production of small arms and ammunition. For example, it is developing rocket systems and designing AI-enabled wearable devices for a future quote-unquote smart soldier. Nigeria has also become a continental leader in the production of unmanned aerial systems. These include lightweight FPV drones, one-way kamikaze drones, and long-endurance combat drones. A drone factory in Abuja is now capable of churning out 10,000 drones annually. Nigeria is not alone. 9 African countries now produce drones, supplying an increasing share of the African market. 21 have launched and own satellites. South Africa, Kenya, and Senegal are experimenting with 3D printing, making 3D objects from a digital file. For critical spare parts, drone swarms for border security, and satellite-based communications to reduce dependency on external signals intelligence. These affordable and adaptable and dual-use technologies allow African armed forces to respond to asymmetric threats from terrorist organizations and criminal networks without bloating defense budgets or waiting for international suppliers. When domestic production is not immediately possible, African governments are pursuing opportunities for technology transfer and co-production. Sudan's locally manufactured Zagil 3 multi-role attack drone is a copy of the Abibil 3 drone made by Iran, one of the country's top external drone suppliers. Morocco is positioning itself as a defense manufacturing hub by partnering with India's Tata Motors to locally manufacture armored vehicles. It is also partnering Israel's Bluebird Aero system to produce military drones and is attempting to woo U.S. firms such as Lockheed Martin to invest in local production and maintenance lines. These trends reflect a broader realization. In an era of intensifying great power competition and shifting global alliances, the capacity to make independent defense and security decisions free from external influence is a core national security concern. The cultivation of local supply chains is necessary, but not sufficient for Africa's militaries to overcome the challenges of relying on externally shipped military equipment and technology. Institutional capacity, regulatory frameworks, and human capital must be developed in tandem to translate innovation into meaningful outcomes. Cybersecurity, data governance, and ethics must also be taken into consideration, ensuring that technological sovereignty does not become a liability. The embrace of technology will do little to make African citizens safer if it's used to entrench corrupt elites or abuse human rights. Finally, while greater independence in the production of defense platforms and technology is a worthy goal, total autonomy is a fantasy. For higher-end military systems such as advanced missiles, frontier AI, manned combat aircraft, and key components such as chips and semiconductors, African governments will maintain some degree of dependency on external actors for a long time to come. The next phase of Africa's defense transformation needs to move beyond acquiring advanced technology and equipment. It needs to ensure they are suited to the continent's unique threats and that they are locally managed and maintained. That was a good article. There's a lot of good information I just picked up in a lot of that. The one thing I would disagree in the conclusion, I would push back slightly. The thing about doing things, we talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. We were talking about, what's the term? We were talking about tinkering. The thing about doing research and making discoveries is that after a lag period, there's an exponential growth phase where more innovation begets more innovation. And so I don't think it will take Africa that long of a time as what the author of this article is kind of trying to say. I don't think it will take us that long of a time. Will we catch up immediately? Hell no. But I think I think given the push, you'll see a lot of innovations coming out of the continent. And the beauty of looking inward to the continent for this innovation is that the innovations would be tied to your people, your culture, your land. It would be in a design language that suits who we are, so to speak. So I think that's a one pushback I would give to the end of that article. But otherwise, very informative article. And I'm glad to see Africa is starting to use its head and realize, like Bakari said ages ago, anything you buy from, any weapons you buy from these people, they'll never be as good as the weapons that they got. But Bakari, you want to expand on that?
Yes, I'm glad you enjoyed that article, man. I told you it was a good article. Look, I ain't got none of the Russian fanatics on the panel tonight. But what I can say, and it's something I always believe, ain't nobody going to give you nothing where you can defeat them. It just doesn't make sense. So anything that Russia is doing or anybody else is doing over in Black Africa, in the Sahel, they're doing it for their benefit. And if they run off one colonizer, they're going to be in a position where they can colonize. They know the weapons that they gave was no good. They know those weapons were not any good. So, but what we need to do is you have them. We get our engineers, we break them down. What's wrong with them? So we can make something similar and just make it much better. And that's what they say they are doing, which is, I'm glad to see Africans. I'm glad to see some Black people coming to their senses. No, man, these are the people that historically oppress, suppress, depress, any kind of pressure, like I said before. These are the people that historically work together against us to keep us in this position. We can't depend on them to get us out of this position. Because Russia don't like France. Don't mean they're going to give you something where you can free yourself. They might be in a position where they can get rid of France, but they're not going to give you anything to free yourself from them, and you are sitting on all of those natural resources. That's just shit. Common sense. That's just common sense. I know people believe in the enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, the enemy of my enemy can still be my damn enemy too. And that's what we have to understand. I understand we need allies, but ain't nobody, we haven't allied with us. I see they're doing it now in the Sahel, but we haven't allied with us over all these years. What make us think the outside forces who enslaved, robbed, and raped thousands of years did up? What make you think they truly coming in to be an ally and not to be not for domination and control. And on that, I yield the mic.
Well stated, Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari, I'm going to come back to you after I hear from Buana and D-Web. D-Web, what say you to this?
Honestly, it felt a bit of a propagandist piece a little bit to me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Just a little background, not to say too much, but I've literally repaired the laser systems for some of these people's drones, particularly Raytheon shit, right? They are so far ahead, even compared to like Russia's like Air Force. Like the US is so fucking far ahead, dog, that it's ridiculous, right? And that's because they spend so much money, man. They spend $901 billion on the defense budget. They propose this orange dude talking about bringing it up to 1.5 trillion. People don't understand how much money $1 trillion is going to Lockheed, Raytheon, and these other places. You are not going to out arms race the United States. It's just not going to happen. I realize the article's about, having homegrown things. But my question is like, where are they going to use this at? Because that's not going to run off the U.S. who has nuclear subs, right? They're going to laugh at this shit. So, like, who are you building up the defense for? Because it's definitely not to scare off the biggest bully on the playground, which is the U.S. The only thing that's going to scare off the U.S. is nukes, period, point blank. I've said this like in previous episodes. If you don't have nuke and nuclear subs, it's kind of a waste of your time. Though to me, it seems like those weapons would be more used against your tribal enemies than you would be against any of these other powers, right? And then it also speaks about Morocco, like Morocco fucking with the rest of the continent of Africa and stuff like that. So I didn't take too much of it. To be honest with you, particularly knowing I know about the Alpha, I think a better investment to me on a positive note would be to like invest more so in technology, because that's where everything is going. AI, having a lot of your population that's IT trained, where I think this old style of thinking that battles are going to take place on a battlefield, like it's going to be old school, it's going to be more so technology battles. It's going to be more economic battles. If you could shut down somebody's entire fucking economic structure with your hackers, that to me is more valuable. If you shut down somebody's power grid because you have these people who are more, adept at technology, to me, that's a better investment. And that's something that you actually can, at this point, beat the U.S. in. The U.S. is not producing the best IT specialists. The U.S. is not producing the best technology specialists right now. They're not even producing the percentage of the chips needed to even run some of these systems. They got to import them from Taiwan and shit like that. So to me, the better investment to me is investing in your population to actually win the technology race at this point, because that's open. But you're not going to out nuke the U.S. It's just not going to happen at this point. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I two things I'll say is the article does mention that that certain countries, I think it was 3 of them. I think it was Nigeria, Kenya, and someone else, but they are actually getting into AI and stuff like that. So that was mentioned in it. But you're absolutely right. The future of warfare, we know that now. The future of warfare. In fact, we talked about a prompt last week with some Chinese robots doing some foolishness, but we know that behind the scene, this shit is for warfare. This ain't for dancing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I absolutely agree that AI is where it's at. And to your second point, or to the second point, I had to point out that thing you said about the U.S. is not producing the best technologists and stuff like that. That's absolutely correct. I teach science on a college level. I can tell you it's actually going to probably get worse for the U.S. because these kids are not scientifically inclined. They don't know. They don't understand the process to excel in it. It's a shame. And it's not just me who's saying it. Like whole college presidents, university presidents are saying it. So there is a chance there to catch up with them. The one thing I'll lastly say before I welcome in the next panelist is the one thing the U.S. has going for it, because they destabilize so many damn countries, war and all this type of stuff, economic wars. A lot of the smart people, and really this is what America has been good at. they can bring in the intelligence from other places to replace what they're losing in terms of the academics and the curriculum and stuff like that. With that said, man, let's welcome in Icon Fire. Icon Fire, how are you this week?
Hello, everyone. Hello, my people. Respect to you, Kwame, Quaco.
It's Coco, man. But go ahead.
Oh, Coco. Sorry, man. America is in big trouble. I heard my dude said no one gonna beat them in the arms race, but I don't think money is everything, because actual value is raw material. You feel me? Such as bananas and gold. So that's where America's dilemma is. That's why they're acting so wild, because they are running low on raw material. I'm not sure about why they invading that place, Iraq, because they invaded Venezuela and they have control of that oil. But I hear it's ugly oil. So I guess they don't have the manufacturing power in America to solve that dirty oil problem or rough oil problem. You feel me? Or a thick oil problem. It's not sweet oil. Anyway, I think that's the reason, because what happened is they want to sell oil. America was always the seller of oil, of other people's oil, which is, if you may. So what America want to do is sell oil, not really oil. They want to manufacture gas, petroleum, and all that, and sell it. You feel me? They can't get to do that, so that's why they're imbalancing those areas, because that's how their money is strong without public favor, without consumer favor of the dollar. You feel me? They have guns and oil. The problem America have in terms of war and all that is that money is not everything. So they can have a ton of money, but still don't have the raw material to produce the weaponry that it takes to dominate others. That's what's going on. Because right now, when it comes to critical minerals, America don't control it. What happened is they outsourced it. And that's what's going on. That's why they turned out a lot of idiots throughout the 80s and 90s, people that is gay and all that stuff. Because they threw away their manufacturing capacity, and I think they know how to do the critical minerals, but they don't have the manufacturing nor the manpower in terms of the educated people to do so. But they do have the logics in science books and all that stuff. You feel me? What I mean outsource is they ask China to make certain small capacitors and magnets. The key word is magnets. You feel me? So now, and it's dirty work. You feel me? So now China and the raw material now, its diversity it's in the dirt with a lot of other raw materials. So it's almost you have to sieve things out. You feel me? So it's dirty work. So China now have spent time and garnished these skills. Now they are making superpower magnets and all type of special goddamn magnets and all that shit. And let me tell you this. They have America by the balls. You feel me? So America right now cannot move an inch without the authority of China in terms of making weapons, because they actually have to buy certain magnets from China, even to make wind turbines. You feel me? So that's where China, that's the battlefield. That's the real battlefield where nobody not gonna shoot nobody. I'm telling you, that's just some real strategic battlefield thing where you got people by the balls and they know and you know and nobody can do nothing about it. So that's where America is powerless. You feel me? Where they don't have it gonna take them maybe 15 years to develop to the level where China is in
So
terms of yeah.
where does Africa looking to make its own weapons and invest in AI warfare and all that? Where does Africa fit in this conversation you're having about China and America, and in terms of their advances
Yeah.
in weapons? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that it don't matter the type of money that America is investing per year in weaponry, because other there's another there's other strategies that can conquer that. Anyway, when it comes to Africa, I only trust the Sahel right now. They operate verbally and physically in with a Pan-African spirit, and that's why I trust them totally. And they're the only one closest to operating like how you are saying, Quako. You feel me? Where they are thinking about developing weaponry, and they are thinking about um handling their raw materials and advancing themselves through it. You feel me? And that's all I can. That's the only hope I see in Africa. You feel me? South Africa have no hope. They gonna kill them with AIDS and turn every man into a faggot there, without them even knowing that the white people is doing that to them. You feel me? They think they're free will. You feel me? And Kenya, their ladies are going to breed them out. You feel me? They're gonna be looking like Brazilians in Kenya in maybe 50 years. You feel me? So they're all idiots. Their women are going to destroy the race. Well, the men too, but the women raise the men. So anyway, and if Ghana don't look, if it wasn't for people like Kwame Nkrumah and certain people that Black consciousness and African consciousness and Pan-Africanism affect, if it wasn't for those people, the Russian guy is just came and show you that they're gonna turn them into Brazilians too. You feel me? It's just that, as I said, the Sahel is practically the only hope, and it's trickling into certain parts of the ECOWAS with like Ghana and um 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 Togo. You feel me? So that channel is a hope to me when it comes to West Africa. Congo, all of them, the rest of them are just waiting for the presidents to die or something. All right, I see no hope until some of those presidents die. You
All
feel
right.
me?
All right. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
Icon. In the chat, Lord of Slaughter says propaganda is America's most effective weapon, even more so than all the stuff that we're talking about. Trigger Happy said, yeah, they use brain drain to the best advantage. Yeah, that's what America does. So even though these kids coming up in school ain't about nothing, they can still get real smart people from other places to come in and work on their project. Bakari has some comments. I'll come back to that after Buana goes. Buana, what say you to all of it?
Yeah, it's interesting how the brother, he casually mentioned that he was doing work for Raytheon. That really that to me, I understand that D-Web is a complete six figure brother. You know, he making cash money. Needless to say, I try to put his business out there, and forgive me, Koku, for the brothers them who in the stock markets and stuff like that. You know, D-Web mentioned Raytheon. If y'all interested, get some Raytheon stock. Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. I'm not being a greedy capitalist. I'm just saying it's about to explode. And if you want your money to double, you know, try to look at them stocks. Needless to say, I would say this. The way I feel the way it's going to change, the world is going to change, it's going to be by some nerdy, little white American guy or American guy sitting in his basement who understands the technology, who understands how to break into the defensive systems of these governments and things like that. D-Web mentioned hacking. Or it'll be some Indian guy sitting somewhere, you know, in his poor, broke down place, but he masters the internet and technology. He understands hacking. Or some Chinese guy. The level of warfare is different now than it was 20, 30 years ago. So technology is something of interest, should be of interest to the black man all over the world, not just in Africa, but all over the world, because of what technology right now, especially in terms of manipulating technology, what it can actually do. You know, you have the power of so-called God in your hands. If you understand how to break into the defensive systems, even manipulating the stock market, because people only understand warfare in terms of bombs. You could destroy a country by ruining their economy completely. You know, in terms of the stock markets, you could destroy an economy by breaking into their water systems, as D-Web was mentioning earlier, and stopping them from receiving water supply. You know, because all these things is run technically. And the Nigerians who are masters in scamming all over the world using technology to do that. I think that if the Nigerian government was to wheel in some of these people in the informal market, because they only go into people who giving them resumes from these universities and things like that to work with them. But the brothers who in the informal market, they use technology to do all kind of devilishment all over the world. All over the world, they've been doing that forever because they understand the technology better than the people who've been to university. You have to wheel these people in. And the rest of Africa, and not only Africa, but the black man in the West as well. You know what I mean? I know we invested in using the technology to play games, gaming technology and things like that. But behind that, in terms of how these things are built, how these things actually function, the creation, the development, the engineering of these technologies, I think that these are the fields that we really should really invest in and mastering, because the Indian guy who broke sitting on the side of the road in India, in the Punjab, he understands the technology better than better than the MIT graduate, better than the MIT graduate. You know, and he understands how to break into systems. He understands how to manipulate systems. And tomorrow he'll be the next multi-millionaire. You don't understand how he got all this money. But technology is the way of warfare in the future. Not only in terms of, the brother was mentioning nuclear technology. Some of these people know how to break into these defensive systems to make, maybe, now I'm not saying for certain, to maybe break into these weaponized nuclear systems in terms of, and using them to their own advantage and benefit. This is where the real war is being waged. The brothers who in the military or have been in the military could correct me on the information that I given out right now. But there are people in the world who are not necessarily in a formal technical world who in the who is in the informal markets of the world. They understand how to manipulate these systems. You have to wheel these people in. You have to bring these people in. to either fight on your behalf or for you. Because I personally believe that the world is gonna change vastly by people who you least expect that first to happen. People you never heard of before, people who's not in the army, who's not in the military, but they understand how the technology works better than the person who is at the highest level, within these industries and fields. But that's my belief. This is how the world is going to change, and I think that Africa right now has to take advantage of the new world we live in right now, which is this information based world where it's what you know and how you can manipulate technology to your advantage. In terms of building small cheaply made drones, and all these kinds of other things. I think that these things actually do matter, and I think that these things we really should be invested in at this particular point in time. I may be wrong. The brothers on the panel who are militarily inclined could correct me on it, but this is how I see it. I'll leave it there, Koku.
But I'll say this: for as much as some of these countries you would have listed have these smart people, you know what they also have? They have weapons. They're building firearms. They're building drones. Like in that article, one of the things that hit me that I hadn't even considered, kamikaze drones and all kind of shit like that. So like what y'all saying is absolutely correct, and the article does mention that at least some of Africa is addressing the idea of AI and AI, modern warfare. But even with that, the idea is that, which is true, like in our country, if you shut off the water, there'll be pandemonium, But nonetheless, these people with the potential brains and the hackers, they're still making weapons. So I think we should still make weapons, but definitely we need to be forward thinking in how we go about doing it. Not just make weapons, but also deal in the computer, so to speak, aspect. But Bakari, you heard what everyone else had to say since your comments. What would you like to say?
Of course, you need to make weapons. Still need to make weapons. They were talking about they wanted to do a ground attack in Iran. Of course, you still need to make weapons. Everyone needs to defend themselves. So you make the making of the weapons is also using technology to create weapons. Because Iran is giving U.S. hell right now, right? Iran is giving U.S. hell. I don't know what all Iran have, but they have shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and they got stuff stranded. They have blown up a couple vessels trying to come through there. No, they are not as powerful as the U.S. per se, but what they are doing is using strategy. When U.S. bombed them, they just turned around and bombed military bases over there in the Middle East. To countries have to come out and apologize for having U.S. folk having a military, U.S. military over there, because Iran just started attacking them. No, they couldn't attack America head on, but they used strategy. And what I heard was, when I've heard people brag on China, I heard Bawana say it's going to be some smart white guy, some smart Chinese guy, some smart Indian guy. So why do we look at ourselves like we can't be smart and change the world? Why it has to be someone? Why does it have to be someone else? Why can't it be some smart black guy, some African guy sitting in the basement? For me, I think I have to look at us. I have to look at us better than that. And if we can't see ourselves any better than that, we're gonna always be at the will of someone else, hoping they defend us because their smart people is sitting in the basement. Now, what I can say is we go places, a lot of African people go places, and they don't go back home. It was once a report say it was more Nigerian doctors in LA and New York than it was in Nigeria. And to me, to me, that's crazy. We have to use our technology. We have to use our we have to use our smarts. We have to create technology for us. And if we can do it for everybody else, we most definitely can do it. We can most definitely do it for us, for ourselves. If you can do it for everybody else, do put in the chat, say, Iran also bought some weapons from China. Okay, that's cool. It's cool where they got their weapons from, but they knew they didn't have enough weapons. Or wherever they got their missiles from, they couldn't use their missiles to go head up with the U.S. But what they did know is they can use strategy. Like Faz said, money is not everything, and on that he's right. On that note, he's right. If you use strategy, if you can use strategy, especially when the leadership is incompetent, and this leadership that's in the U.S. is incompetent, is incompetent as hell. So for me, we have to continue. We have to say we're going to do things for ourselves so we can dig ourselves. Because if you're constantly trying to depend on other people, to take care of you, there's no need to talk about liberation. There's no need to talk about we're going to be able to do this. You can't do nothing when you have to depend on other people for everything. You can't even fight for yourself, can't even create anything to put up a fight for yourself. So even if this article was propaganda is something white people has used for a long time to build themselves up. Everybody used propaganda. Even how great China is, in my opinion, their military and Russia and how strong they are. For me, all it is propaganda, but people believe it. So if we can get some positive propaganda, I'm okay with some positive propaganda. Positive propaganda doesn't bother me. It don't bother me at all. And some of it may be a propaganda piece, but it's okay to have some positive propaganda for you and your people. That's my take on what was said. I give the mic.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so when I because I want to say about the propaganda. When I speak about propaganda, if you look at the people who actually wrote that article, they don't look like Pan-African to me, right? It's a white dude and another dude that went to that. So what I'm saying is that, yeah, you can have great propaganda, but where's the propaganda like gravitating towards? To me, it's not empowerment article. This is more so like you need to invest more in Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman. You know what I'm saying? If you kind of read between the lines of the article, that's what I was kind of getting at. And to another point about Iran shares a similarity with Afghanistan. There is a Joint Chief of Staff. I forgot his name. He almost wanted to resign because he didn't want to go to a war with Iran because he kind of knew what the results would be. Iran, much like Afghanistan, is a very mountainous region. That's what we got to understand too when we talking strategy and war. Iran and Afghanistan very mountainous. Therefore, it kind of negates the Air Force. That's the big thing that America has over a lot of nations, is that they have this advanced fucking Air Force, F-22s, F-35s, things of that nature. If you negate those, much like even Vietnam, which was a very dense jungle region, right, where they couldn't penetrate at that time with their bombers. If you can kind of negate the U.S. Air Force, you can kind of win at the end of the day. Because nobody wants a ground invasion. Nobody wants to go to ground. No, the urban warfare is a thing, right? You don't necessarily need great technology if a ground invasion comes, because you know the land, you know your area. You can defeat the U.S. with AK-47s. Countries have did it. You know what I'm saying? You can defeat Russia with AK-47s. Countries have did it. So the thing is, you just not negate the Air Force. That's why I say I don't think it's just so much a stock should be put on the weapons, right? The stock should be put on more so the technology. If you can figure out how to do a desalination, right, where you can take the salt out the water, and there's people working on that right now. If Africa be forefront of taking the salt out the water, where we producing clean drinking water for the next, now you have something that you can hang your hat on. If you can go to the technology where you got cars running off water, which is a brother working on that right now. That's a vehicle that can run straight off water, things of that nature. I think that's the future And not saying you don't need weapons and things of that nature, but to think that you can kind of like match or even try to match the U.S., it makes no sense. The other brother spoke on China. China spends a third of what the U.S. spends on the defense budget. You feel me? So you don't necessarily need the most advanced weapons. You do need strategy. I agree with Bakari with that. Definitely you need strategy, as in you can see the future and where it's going with this global nation, where you don't need to worry about trying to build up arms and bankrupting your currency to try to chase the U.S. Nah, you outthink them with doing things like, you know, drinking water, power, be an innovator in that. You know what I'm saying? Come up with new systems of that. I think that's the best strategy. So that's all I got, man.
Hey, D-Web, let me ask D-Web a question right quick.
Yes,
when
sir.
you say somebody extracting the salt to make drinking water, somebody working on that. So you heard of those straws that's supposed to make water clean and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So would that be, I know it's not a straw because you're making water for mass of people. So would that be like a bigger technology of the straw? They're just making a huge straw for a lot of people. I'm just asking because I don't know.
Nah, that's more like a product. That's a product line, like, and I wouldn't even think that's something that's like sustainable over long term. There might be some, if you're fucking, you know, dehydrated, you need to get some treat. I'm talking about a complete desalination process. Saudi was trying to work on one because, you know, those desert regions need that more than anybody. Where if they can kind of, you know, get the salt out the water, make ocean water viable as potable water, then that's a game changer for them because they're limited on their natural resources. Like I think you hit on it, at least one of y'all brothers hit on earlier about the natural resources and the resources of the land. The desert regions don't have shit. So that's kind of what I'm speaking of. You know what I'm saying? Like just the technology in general. I think that would be a better focus than trying to chase the fucking US and bombs. You feel me? So
Yeah. I'm, you know what? I most definitely agree with that. You don't have to chase them in bombs. I just think we need to make our own weapons. Have some. I'm just to have some type.
I agree.
That's what I mean. Have some type of weapon. Like, damn, we created it because I do believe our people smoke. We can do all of this.
I have a question. To the former soldiers, you know, Brother Bakari and D-Web. What do you all think about? This is a quick question, Koku. What do you all think about America trying to send ground troops into Iran? There are going to be a lot of black folks as well. So my question to you all is, what do you all think? What do you think about that?
I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest with you. I know they floated the idea out there. But once again, the worst thing or you could try to do, that's what ended the Vietnam War. That's what ended the Afghanistan War. It's hard to subdue a population via ground war because that's something tangible. You'll have grandmas with rifles at that point, right? And a lot of these Arab countries, they actually have mandates where like you got to have you know how back in the day, like you know, they used to say back in the day, like you have a rifle in your house. They literally have AK-47 sitting at the front door in a lot of these nations, right? They're not like us, or not like some of these other nations where they don't want their people to have weapons. They actually want their people to have weapons to a certain extent. So I don't think that's going to happen. And that'll probably be the quickest way for this administration and all the other, you know, Republican administrations to change. If they try to do a ground war and bodies start coming back in bags, then that's the quickest way to turn people against you. So I don't see it happening. They talk shit, but they say a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? But that's my 2 cents. I'll pass it.
D-Web, have you ever seen like the Strait of Hormuz?
I haven't seen that one, brother. No.
No, I haven't been over there, but I know, and I don't know if that's where, because I have a buddy that was in the Navy and the Marines, and they say they have been there, and when they went like cargo ships, they say that's how you get to Iran. That's what they were telling me. Like I said, I've never been there. And when you say would it be ground troops, according to them, you would have to try to get through that strait. And they say it would be easy pickings. They say, man, they can just pick you off like it's nothing. They say only 2 ships. He say 2 ships can go through that strait at one time. That's at one time. And he was like, everybody say you're gonna have people can hit you, but you really wouldn't have no idea of what you're shooting at. So ground troops, from what I was told from people who was in that branch of the military. Like I said, I wasn't in the Navy nor the Marines, and I haven't been there, so I haven't seen it. But people who have been over there in that part of the world and been on the water say they would destroy America if they would try to bring ground troops to Iran, because you're gonna have to use the strait. And he said that would be straight, that they would be destroyed.
Yeah, I personally don't see it happening. Like I said, even with the mountainous regions, bro, like it would be ugly, man. Like I've been to the country right next to Iran. You know what I'm saying? And bro, like when I say you're literally sitting in a valley sometimes and you're surrounded by mountains and all this other shit, different caves and stuff like that. America don't want those problems, man. Like America's not unbeatable in the sense of that. Like the land is always your friend, bro. If you're from that area and you know the lay of the land, man, it's rough pickings, man. So I don't see it happening. So.
Like Afghanistan and Russia just dropping bombs on mountains ain't heard nothing. They
ain't heard nothing, bro.
They just dropping bombs to Afghanistan. Was eventually able to get them from over there. Yeah, they just dropping bombs on big rocks. They ain't doing nothing to nobody.
Bro, I've seen a hellfire up close and personal drop and to try to kill one sniper, bro, and they missed them. You feel me? So those mountains ain't nothing to play with, bro. So I don't see it happening.
And remember, that's what the complaint was all about from the West. That the Afghan people would just fall back in the mountain and you can't find them. You don't know what to do. And that's how they beat the Russians too, through the mountains. So I guess it's a problem. Great thing.
Yeah. In the chat, Trigger Happy says, I hate when I see Black in China content from super polyglots when they could come to Africa and help improve African languages. You know, Trigger, there's a young lady, I can't think of her handle on Instagram. Pretty sister. I don't know which country in Africa she's from. And she's just over in China and doing all this stuff in Chinese languages and it kind of becoming like an influencer but it's really like to honor China. And
she's selling box.
And you know, there was something else I was going to say about her too, and I forgot. But you're right, Trigger, in that you know all these languages and stuff. Why don't you go and help your people and stuff instead? You're in China getting felt up to Icon's point, getting felt up by old Chinese women and stuff like that because the young lady has like a good body on her and stuff, and she's over there getting felt up and kind of treated like a pet in the zoo, which is interesting. Trigger says, Afghanistan has always had to use mountains ever since the Mongols. Mongols made them use mountains when they were sedentary. They became a pillaged economy, and that's their warfare. Let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 4. This might probably be the last topic of the night. Shooter Breeze topic number 4 says, the psychology of the colonized African well summarized. This hold on. This comes with a link. Let me set that up real quick for you guys. Forgot to do this before.
It's gonna be good.
This comes with a link that takes us to Facebook, actually. So let me share the screen with you guys. Yeah, this should be good and should be a really good conversation. So we'll watch this reel and then we'll discuss it. What's going on? Hold on. For some reason, the sound is not playing. Let me see if I disconnect for a second. I don't know what's going on here. Y'all bear with me as I try to figure this out. Okay, so I finally got it. All right, so here we go. Let me share my screen with you guys. Here we go to Facebook. We'll watch this short and then we will discuss it.
Must pack his bags and go back home where he came from. It's time for Muhammad and Islam to pack their bags and go back to Saudi Arabia. It's time for the African to start asking those uncomfortable questions, which you are asking me from a religious space. Where were you? Who are you? Where? No, you're not asking me who I was and who I am. Ask me what were you colonized to be? Because had the Chinese people colonized us, all of us here would have been Muslims. But because the British colonized us, then you say you're a Christian. The day you bring to me, I'll tell you how an African can become a Christian. My calling is that of identity. The fact that you can have 1,000 people who are in agreement to a wrong thing does not make it right. So right is right, even when no one does it. Wrong is wrong, even when everybody does it. And I think I'd given you a pretext to your question when I said it's a colonial tool that Africa finds itself in the Christian space. If you go to Libya, you get to Somalia, you get to Egypt, you get to Algeria, you find because of the Arab influence, those countries are Muslim. But after you say they are Muslim, are they Muslim first before they are Africans? Or they are Africans first before they become Muslim? The question is, who are they? Self-determination, sovereignty of nations has to do with every race on the face of the world being allowed to be who they are and deal with the influences of colonization. Right now, we're in the space where we are decolonizing. Decolonizing simply means we are resetting Africa to factory settings. We are removing all the unnecessary apps which are I almost swore at you, which are filled up in our minds toward identity, and say, but who are you? So my interest is not, I'm not even worried. Even if you told me that 99% of Africa is Christian, I'll still be asking the question, but who are they? After you have made them Christian, but who are they? And while you're on the same statistics, do further research, and you find that 30 to 40% of all the churches in Europe right now are up for sale. They're being converted into museums, into pubs, into recreational centers. It's there. So the question is, what is it that the European has now discovered about this Jesus infatuation, which the African is still excited about? But because Africans lost their identity and allowed other people to define them, we will be 50 years from now where Europe is right now. These same white people have abandoned this thing. Why? Because it's founded on a false doctrine of the whitening of God, false doctrine of the whitening of Jesus, false doctrine. Oh, I hope you will tolerate me. Cultic behavior of drinking human blood, eating human flesh, in the transubstantiation of the Lord's Supper. Africans are constantly being brainwashed to think that it's okay to drink the blood of Jesus and eat his flesh. And you call this religion? No, don't shake your heads. This is the crux. You call this religion? Half of you here, if not 90% of you, are Christian. But when the white man tells you to do it like this, you don't question. When an African comes and asks the question, do you know what you're doing? What is this all about? No, he's a pagan. Maponga J is an atheist. He's a Satanist. I'm simply asking the question, are you saying your salvation is based on human consumption and drinking blood? Where do you find those cults if that not in witchcraft? And here we are, proudly saying, I'm Christian. I'm a Christian. What are you? And they ask me, are you still a Christian? And so I said, ask me the right question. Are you still brainwashed? That's the right question. I'm a bridge builder. You have the gospel in the Bible with the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. 4 disciples that write the same story, but each one of them in their own perspective. So I did Greek, I did Hebrew. I could take you on that route. Kata, Markon, Kata, Lukon, Kata, Matthew, Kata, Ioannon. Meaning the gospel according to Matthew, according to Luke, according to John, according to Mark. Simply meaning I had an encounter with Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yeshua, Jesus. This is the way I am interpreting my experience. In the 21st century, if I should come up with a title of a book entitled The Gospel According to Maponga J, who sits in front of you today, I am simply saying, as I see it, as I understand it, as I have experienced it, and I am a circumcised theologian. If God gave the Israelites Jerusalem, a land belonging to the Palestinians, the Philistines, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, what is the same God giving the African? And if this God has a problem with Africans, then he never created them. Because you cannot have such a race of people simply built to become slaves of another generation and another nation. I don't like that God. And I've asked the question, and no one has come up to answer it. The question is the God of the Bible the creator of the universe? Because if he is the creator of the universe, we need to ask the same God the question. So what is your agenda with Africans? We understand the white involvement, their domination and their colonization and their whatever. I'm not interested in Indians and Asians and etc. I am a Pan-Africanist. So I want to ask the same God, where is our land? Where is our identity? And if your God cannot accept me as an African, dress up like a white man so that God can accept you. Then you look at this God and say, hold on a minute. If you have a problem with the African and his identity, question, then who created this one that you have a problem with? Because it looks like you only favor this one. Oh, if a man claps one cheek, give him the other cheek. Oh, that's good for white people, yeah? What if a black man should clap a white man? Should the white man also give him the other cheek? How come the gospel only works with why and how, and justifies why an African must be colonized and abused by the white man? But the same gospel will not tolerate if a black man becomes the master, becomes the Lord, and implement the same law. If slaves must be obedient to their masters, it's beautiful when a white man is the master. What if we turn the verses around and say, what if the black man is the master? What must we do with these people that raped our mothers, stole our land, killed our kings? What does that God say? And if that God cannot address African problems, then that God never created the African. So my gospel has to do fundamentally with respect of every culture and clan in their own spaces, and not use religion as a foreplay of colonialism and managing the African anger towards issues that must be resolved, whether they be legislative issues, academic issues, and etc. Here we are struggling with democracy. Democracy simply meaning the white man can continue to abuse you. It's only that you have the right to vote, but you still don't have the right to land. and function. But they are free in their countries to do what they want. You're not free. And we call that political freedom. Political freedom without economic power is a waste of time. Waste of time. The gospel according to Maponga J is an Afro-centric gospel that deals with African identity. Decolonize God, decolonize religion, take off the clothes of colonialism, find your identity as an African. Who are you? It's time.
That's what it is, man. Who are you? Let me start off with I Can Fire. I Can Fire, what say you to the psychology of the colonized African, well summarized?
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, I like that guy from Zimbabwe. I wish he was the president, because his president didn't have a clue what he was doing in terms of social science. You feel me? He's a little Christian, and which means a colonized individual who has no idea of the future. You feel me? So that's why his people are, and he also disrespect Rastafari, and that if it's obvious he didn't actually look into the concept and the movements of Rastafari in order for and that would make his people very appropriate in the world right now. You feel me? In terms of the way how they take their direction. And right now they would vote out their government just because the government allow them to be a corrupt people. You feel me? The government allow them to be whatever. You feel me? Westernized, totally westernized. So that's what's destroying the continent. Christianity is actually racism. So it teaches racism. So even black people is also racist. But it's not racism towards anybody else but black people. So black people is only racist to black people. It's not called racism. It's actually xenophobia, because we have a particular dirty treatment for each other. I mean, even me who see myself as a decolonized individual, fight with I have to fight myself to get myself out of the behavior that we give to only black people. You feel me? And it's automatic, and it's psychological, and it's what you call it's in your mind, and you don't know. It's in your subconscious. A lot of us, it's there. When you look at Africans, I'm telling you, Africans do not retaliate. When you say the colonized Christian African, he do not retaliate to white people. He turns his cheek to the white man. But the black man, the African, never turns their cheek to nobody black. You feel me? The Christian African. Same with the Caribbean. We don't turn our we go head on, and we clash all the way as Christian black people. You feel me? I'm not Christian, but I was growing up in yeah. You feel me? So we very hostile to each other, and that's what's do it. And not only that, we actually stop each other from achieving, and we do it like it's a function of ours. You feel me? Where we try to bring each other down And we, just like how we will go to the Chinaman store without even caring that we could have went to the black dude store and just for his development. We don't think that way. So that's what Christianity do. It takes away our conscience towards blackness. It makes us don't like our hair. It makes us don't like our skin. And therefore, the one we see that's black, we have a special nasty treatment for our individual brothers. And I think it's the same thing with the B-Rabs. You feel me? So that all my solution is places like the Black Panther and the UAE, the UNIA, right? Organizations. We have to, and it's the same thing. These organizations are not big because we black people do not contribute to these organizations. And it's because of our colonization why we don't do that. And that's how the Jews do. The Jews set up each other. So what we need to do is what you call contribute to the ministries of education in Africa. But that gonna take funding, in which that's how the organizations would come in, where the organizations through Black Pride and all that will garnish funds and contribute to the ministries of education, in which that's how you can actually dictate terms in terms of teach Black history books, the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey, Amos Wilson, all these in the colleges and in the high schools and the teachers' colleges, and you understand, and promote Black history, like such as end of year gifts for teachers who, that's my suggestion, like for end of year gifts like a car or something for teachers who do a little master's or a certain degree in history. You feel me? And me, actually, I don't think a judge should be a judge if they don't know history. And same for lawyers. It's like, what kind of judge are you? Worse if you black, like the Caribbean judges, right? They're all a set of big old idiots who don't know history. So, and they're judging black people. So they're in a colonized system. You are judged from a colonized system. Now you have no part with history. So that means you're just a white judge. You feel me? Actually. So you see black people as just some rags that you just throw around. And that's how the Caribbean is doing. You feel me? It's just, and the governments, to me, it's a setup. They raise us corrupt and then kill us when we do corrupt things as adults. Anyway, those are my suggestions and my my offerings.
Thank you for that. I can fire. Let me go to D Web next. Web, what's the
I ain't got too much on this topic, just because I think we hit on it earlier, as far as the religion and the ins and outs and the do's and don'ts and stuff like that. So I ain't gonna hold too long. I think considering the minds that's on this panel, probably the people listening and stuff like that, I kind of think we are already like behind or beyond the whole Abrahamic thought process at this point. I'm kind of more so want to talk about like solutions and things like that. So I agree with everything in the video. Of course, to me, it was more so at this point a feel-good video, like kind of shit we kind of already know as far as the colonized mind and things of that nature. So, I'm gonna yield my time to somebody who can, maybe summarize it a little bit better or want to input more to it. But yeah, I just think at this point, it'd be more better to talk about solutions than, we kind of understand the problems.
Well, to be fair to Web, Mpongo in the video is talking about solutions, though, because the reason why he talks about the Christianity stuff, which I know that a lot of black people who teeter on consciousness, I know they get kind of tired of that conversation. But Mpongo makes a strong case. We're colonized, right? Because that's what the whole prompt is about: is the psychology of being colonized. And one of the things in our colonization, a huge part of our colonization, is the religion. So the solution, if we want to rectify our condition currently, we got to get rid of all aspects of colonialism. See, we just got the British out of our countries and all that kind of stuff, or the French or whoever was the colonizer. But in a lot of these instances, we just continued the plan. We continued the way the colonizers did their thing, and we just continued their work for them. We just did it in blackface. But if we really was trying to decolonize, when we started to get the separation from these different powers, we would have overhauled completely the education system, like Ike and Fire was just talking about. We would have overhauled the legal system, right down the line. But we didn't do it. We didn't even have a plan to do it. So he is discussing solutions, but I think most people are going to focus on his talk about religion, and that's the unfortunate thing. We are so stuck to the religion that we can't really come up with solutions, because that religion is a part of that. It is a big part of the solution. I'm sorry, Webb, go ahead.
No, but I would say who is we? You know what I'm saying? Like, to be honest with you, the vast majority of people you're speaking on weren't going to move mountains any fucking way. Like, the people who are probably on this panel, some of the people who probably listening to this, who would seek something out like this, are already kind of beyond that, right? So I think the better topic, or the better point, would be like, how do we build maybe something to counteract that, to draw more people in? I think part of the problem I see a lot, particularly with us, in that Pan-African space or whatever, we spend a lot of fucking time talking about what we should have, would have, could have did, instead of like hitting and I'm not, bashing nobody, but you need to hit the fucking pavement, dog. Like, it's good and it's cute and shit, but
what's your suggestion?
Yeah, like you have to get out there. You have to talk to people. You have to break this thing, right? So, like, we can talk about how we should have did this after the colonization. We should have did this after that, after we ran the British out or whatever. But I mean, at this point, we know what we should have did, right? What are we gonna do for the future? I think more future-based conversations would be better. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to knock the conversation. I understand this is a show and we have to talk about certain things, and maybe somebody will get inspired by that or whatever. But I feel like
it's a suggestion.
I have a suggestion.
Join an organization, talk to people. Like, that's the only way to break anything, is to go and build. Join, fucking run for school board, right? In your area, whatever you got to do to get in a position of power is what you need to do, bro. Like, us who have that thinking mind to get a position of power, we need to do that. You feel me? So that's what we need to do at this point. We need, maybe I would be better off, or remiss, to talk about how could we do things like that. How can we maybe get a economic think tank? What area are you in right now? Maybe we can meet up and do this. Maybe we have a meeting this week. Maybe we can do Sankofa, bring fucking Sankofa back, where we're discussing those type of deals. But I feel like the people who are tuning in, and the credit to them, credit people tuning into this podcast, and the people who are on this panel, I think we're kind of past that conversation. We know what the past has brought. Let's talk about the future. That's just kind of how I feel, man.
With that said, let's go to Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari, what say you?
Guana was okay.
What if this sweet black baby Jesus, do we still get rid of him? If it's sweet black baby Jesus, man, we got to keep sweet black baby Jesus. But anyway, getting rid of, saying we're getting rid of Jesus, saying we're getting rid of Christianity, right? For people who's been part of Christianity, for a very long time. That may be difficult to do. And the reason I say it may be difficult to do is because people have been doing it so long. To just tell them, you have to get rid of this, and this is going to make us better. To some of them, it may not make sense. So when we talk about the solution to that, what would be this? What would be the solution? My solution is, I agree with what D Webb said. We hit the ground running, and the people who we feel we can change or who we want to come be a part of us, let's hit the ground running, show them what we're doing, then bring them along slowly and bring them in.
So, Bakari.
Huh?
Yeah, I agree with you on certain level, but I see a different avenue. If you mean in terms of we don't have to try to disregard Christianity, and we don't have to really disregard Islam. To me, we can use like the previous institution, the way the institution operates and everything. Only thing I would go ahead.
No, okay, I agree. I didn't say get rid of it.
I'm not finished. I wasn't. Let me get the point. What I'm saying.
I was speaking, but
okay.
let me finish. Let me finish my point. I ain't gonna be long. I promise you. But what I was saying is, we hit the ground running. We show them what we're doing, and then the ones that want to come along, come along. Now, people have heard me speak about the church, right? Every time I say church, people think of Christianity. Church is a tool that we have, that we owned the building, and that was a meeting place for us. And everybody in that church was not diehard Christians. Church turned into, in my opinion, what it is because the revolutionaries or the people that wanted to make change stopped using that building to make change for the community, and we allowed scammers, grifters, and everything to get there, right? Are they going to talk about Jesus? Yeah, they're going to talk about Jesus, but do we have to believe in it to use something as a tool? Church was a place where we hid guns. Church was places where we planned. Like I said, it was something that we owned, right? It was something that we owned. So once we show people what we're doing, I think we could bring more people along. But to tell people, just get rid of what you've been doing for 30 years, I think we would shun people and run people away. See, I don't have to believe in what they believe in, right? I don't have to believe in what they believe, but I don't just want bodies either. I want people who want to be a part. But what I'm saying is things that we can use that can make us better. Is Christianity making us better? I would say no, but some of our people use it, say it make them better. It make them. So for me, we can say get rid of Jesus. Is Islam making us better? We can say get rid of Allah and Prophet Muhammad. But there might be some good people that's part of those religions that doing something for you, that's willing to work and want to see us do better, and they just happen to be part of a religion, and we just ran some good people off because we are not a part of that. So I don't believe in the Abrahamic. I don't follow the Abrahamic faith. That's not my thing. But is it a tool we can use? Because, if we say get rid of that, do we get rid of the teachings that Marcus Garvey gave us? He was a Christian. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there, right? Just on that. Sometimes I'm playing a little bit of what some people say the devil's advocate. I'm just saying, you know, the mic.
I'll just say real quick before we go to Buana. I talked about this or something similar last week, but I know the Christianity. I know Christianity is a buzzword, and I figure people will kind of center the conversation around that part of the 10-minute or so video. But again, the conversation Mpongo is having is, if you want to make Africa and Africans better, we have to completely decolonize ourselves. And one of the things he mentioned, besides religion, was education, right? There was something else he mentioned as well. He mentioned if he was writing a gospel of Mpongo today, it would be an African-centered one. So I'm saying that to say, let's keep in mind that the conversation wasn't just about this religion thing, because I'm starting to realize too, Black folks really ain't trying to decolonize, period. Because if you're unwilling to get rid of their education, their history, their philosophy, their religion, then you're not really trying to decolonize. And that leads me to the next question of, well, what are we really trying to do? What are we really trying to do? And I'll throw it to Buana on that. Buana, what's it?
Yeah, so Icon Fire was talking about solutions, and I believe in solutions as well. And D Web was saying that we are actually ahead of the conversation in terms of decolonization. I agree with him. Well, as far as this conversation and the brothers on this panel. But what I would say to Icon Fire to point out specific things is I'm a believer in systems as well. I'm a big systems guy. I'm a big institution guy. I'm a big organization guy. So let me start from the continent. So you had the brother Credo Mutwa. Credo Mutwa was a brother from South Africa. Before he died, he actually did build an institution in South Africa, but which had to do with not only decolonization, but actually recolonizing African people towards a centeredness in terms of understanding who they are in South Africa. And he had an institution, a good institution running. In fact, since the South African people didn't take up the task, you know who started talking like Credo Mutwa, who took a lot of his teachings? It's this guy on the internet called David Icke. Look him up. He went to South Africa. Most of the things David Icke, in terms of spirituality, that he talks about, he's a British guy, by the way. He learned from Credo Mutwa. So if the Africans didn't want to pick it up, he picked it up and carried it around the world, where he make his name famous because of the teachings that Credo Mutwa would have given him. But before Credo Mutwa died, he actually built institutions inside of South Africa. Not only him. You have a lady right now, her name is Dr. Ama Mazama. Dr. Ama Mazama is a lady she's from Guadeloupe. She's a French speaking kind of person. She went to, and she's big on voodoo, and she's big on African centeredness and all. She worked with Malefi Asante. She went to Africa, the French speaking Africa, and she actually created an institution inside of one of the French speaking African countries. I don't know exactly what it is. The brothers and sisters can look it up for themselves. But because me personally, I am a big believer in systems. We are great speakers, and that you need to provide an actual alternative where people could go and learn the concepts and ideas to decolonize themselves. It doesn't take a good speech. It takes actual training, actual proper training. Some place people could go to grow and develop themselves. Now, I'll leave Africa alone. Let me go to India. India provides an alternative because India was colonized for more than 400 years too, people don't know that. You know, just like the Africans. People, India was calling for, but do you know that there are brothers, there are not brothers, there are Indian men right now. One of the guys is right now on the internet. You can watch him. His name is Sadhguru. He create ashrams, which is places where you could decolonize yourself away from this Western thinking, Western ideas, Western thought, actual systems and institutions where you could develop your mind in a different kind of way. There must be alternatives. There was another Indian guy called Osho. I can't remember his last name now. They kick him out of the United States because he was drawing in so much Westerners because they were so interested in disregarding a lot of the westernized concepts that the white Americans eventually kick him out. He had to go back to India before he died. But as far as presenting alternatives, even in the Caribbean, let me address the Caribbean because the brother mentioned Rastafari. Rastafari has systems. I don't know if they would have built the institutions because I've been a listener of Muda Baruka for years. I used to listen to him for years, and I'm saying that Rastafari have systems, but depending on who Rastafarian you're talking to, you're gonna get a different idea of the world. And I'm saying that there needs to be systems developed, and it's not that they don't have organizations as well, because they do, but places people could go where they can actually develop themselves as well. They have some places, but not to the extent to you have 3 million Jamaicans, you have the rest of the Caribbean as well. You know what I mean? But there need to be systems in place and organizations in place, places where people can actually go. And I'm saying that they're always going to be the so-called, what we call in the Caribbean, Babylonian system that people are going to work out of. But something separate and apart away from that. There's a reason why the Jehovah Witnesses can come all over the world and they could live separate and apart from everyone else and thrive. There's a reason why the Amish has been able to go around the world and created their own systems
You
and
know,
organizations. Let me finish. Okay,
sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
they have been able to do it. The Rastafarians have separated themselves and they have created their own enclaves away from the system. But eventually, you see the same Rastafarians working as judges, lawyers, doctors. They still get by. So when you provide the alternative, it must be so much so we don't need. We could live off, the brothers and sisters could live off of the grid. The alternative, the Haitian brothers have voodoo, and in New Orleans they have voodoo. These are things that are connected. You have the religious system, but you have to create foundational organizational systems where people could go and mentally grow as well. So for me personally, I this is where I agree with D Web. It's beyond the talking. We have great speakers. We have Dr. Umar. We don't mention no names because I don't like to get caught up in the good talking. Because when you're talking about institutional building and development, it's beyond a good speech, brother. It's a day-to-day grind, especially when you're trying to disabuse people from this whole idea of colonization. It's a grind, brother. It's a grind. Uh, uh, Black Steel is a teacher. Black Steel is a teacher. Black Steel don't have a good he don't teach an lecture in one day and transform the individual. He have to do that throughout the whole semester. And then you have another away at another semester. But he have a place to go where that could be done. So I'm saying that the black man has to develop the same kind of systems and put them in place, a foundational thing where people could grow and develop. Because it's beyond talking at this point. The brother give a good speech, brother. But like I say, the people on this panel who interested in these kinds of ideas, we beyond the speakers. We beyond the speakers. We be more along the lines of institutional building and creating systems, real systems to transform the black mind into something different and greater. That's where I am with it. But I'll leave it, Icon. Sorry for interrupting, brother.
Guana, that's a wicked idea. I'd never thought of it that way. Like a like them classes, like a karate class type shit. All type of institutions like that. Call it decolonization institution. That's wicked.
Yeah,
Good idea, man.
I'll chime in one thing real quick too. Just to kind of go back to the decolonization thing. In general, I know a lot of people don't like Dr. Claude Anderson, right? But I think he did have something in his Powernomics book, you know, when he spoke about actually using the church. White people, like you said earlier, white people ain't inherently Christian. They don't live the principles of Christ. They bomb the shit out of each other every fucking day. The conservatives, who are supposed to be the most,
Christian,
hip to the Bible, they bomb the shit out of people every day. They cheer that shit, right? So they're not necessarily Christian. They use that institution because you get tax breaks, you get people, you can build a community, you can hide shit. We understood that concept at one point. They're like, yo, we not necessarily Christian, but this church here, we can kind of move some weapons through here. We can talk, we can have conversations that's not privy to the public, where if we have a big old like fucking Pan-African building, they may spy on us. If we're in the church having these conversations, maybe they won't look at us crazy, right? As long as we know what it really is in the end of the day, right? So you can actually use these institutions, particularly if you're behind enemy lines like we are in the United States of America, right? You may not necessarily, we may say the decolonization needs to happen. At the same time, you also need to be strategic about what the fuck you do, right? Particularly if you're outnumbered. When you're 12 or 13% of the population, you need to move a little bit different, right? So that being said, it's also going to be hard to completely tell people to throw away Christianity and Muslims and, the Abrahamics in general, just because the only thing the white person ever invented was the patent. It was trademark office, was the patent office, right? Even with Christianity, even with Islam, they have taken pieces of like the Book of the Dead, the Nataru. They've taken pieces of this and basically Frankenstein some bullshit, right? Where they didn't even have this. So our people actually have a draw to these religions for a reason, not because it was beaten into them. It's because it's pieces of shit that was once there that they know is there, and it draws them to it, right? So that's why I said it's gonna be kind of hard to just completely be like, forget all of that, right? So you kind of gotta, you gotta be strategic how you talk to people. You have to be a little bit diplomatic on how you do things. Like, you know what I'm saying? Malcolm X, Martin, like you said, Garvey earlier, all these people came from these institutions, right? You can't just say forget those people because they Abrahamics, right? You kind of gotta be able to have knowledge of self in there where you can see beyond these systems and be strategic on how you move. So I don't think you can just overnight just be like, yo, fuck Christianity, fuck all these systems of you know what I mean? Because that's not going to resonate with a lot of people, because there is tidbits of pieces of the past in there, whether it be ancient Kemetic religion or whatever, that they've stolen and pieced together in these systems they got. So that's what I got.
I have a question, D-Web. I have a question. So you see people like the Amish, right? The Amish, even though they are a Christian organization, though, but they live separate and apart from the rest of the greater, I guess, American or wherever they are in the world, really and truly. If I was a African-centered organization, I ain't trying to disrupt the Western governments, but I just don't want to exist within that space. If I was to get land and develop food for myself and all the things that I need, I mean, do you think? Well, I guess the white boys will still run after us and try to destroy that. Yeah, but I'm saying that
people have tried that before. The Amish are unique in they're white, first of all. Second of all, they kind of present a non-threat, right? The Amish just kind of worry about the Amish. They build their barns. They don't see them as a threat. So they're kind of unique in that sense, at least in America, right? Whereas they're not perceived that way. If you start to build a separatist black community, right, and it's not fucking inherently Christian or something like that, you know what I'm saying, they might come down on you. Ask the Nubians about that shit, right?
Yeah, they'll do us. You think they'll do us like but let me ask you another question, because Dr. York, they had him because he was doing some kind of wicked things. So if I'm a law, what they would consider be a law-abiding citizen, you think they would still make up something on me? Because I'm not messing with children. I just have my own enclave with my own people, and we doing our own thing. We just ain't interested in what y'all into. What you say to that?
I mean, to honestly, to a certain extent, that already exists. If I don't know how many of y'all actually travel to like the South, and that was the one thing that was mind blowing to me, is that you do have like little communities like south of Tallahassee and shit like that. It's very like 99% black, right? In these communities, and they fucking get together and they have fucking fish fries and they come together and they have these events and festivals and shit. We're not privy to that up north. I'm from Chicago. We never had no shit like that, but they do have like towns that are like all black that have those like, and if you can do something like that where if you're not doing the big symbolism like the Nubians did, put big ass, ankh on the front of, and if you can do something like that, they're not gonna worry about you, right? Like I said, it's all a matter of moving strategically, right? You know what I mean? Talk soft, carry big stick, right? So you kind of got to be able to have that knowledge of sense. You can build actual communities. It's just question is, can you actually bring people in to do that? That's the big thing, right? Bring people in, the power in numbers. How many people actually want to do that? How many people want to live off the grid where they don't have the smartphones like the Amish? They're not fucking on the internet every day, right? How many people actually want to live that life? Because you're going to be kind of off the beaten path at that point if you don't want to be privy to the propaganda of the West, right? So that's the question. How many numbers you got?
I'm saying this. We're talking about America. We're talking about America, but America is there's 40, 50 million black people in America. But we have at least 2 billion black people in the world. So what I'm trying to say is we don't really have to try to change anyone's religion. And that's not how it's gonna happen, because that would take a war. You feel me? I'm saying that, okay, the colonization have turned us into prostitutes. You feel me? All of us, male and female, are prostitutes. We love more money and valuables more than everything, including maybe God involved. But that's how it is. That's what colonization turned us into. So we're all corrupt people. So what I'm trying to say is the easier route is to finance stuff such as the ministries of education. All right, me now, I have a problem in Jamaica, right? Jamaica insists on raising corrupt people, right? In terms of, they don't teach anything about Marcus Garvey. They don't teach what he does. They don't teach his concepts. They don't teach nothing about Marcus Garvey, except he's a national hero. That's it. You feel me? Anything else, you got to go find out your own self. So what I'm trying to say to you is, someone somewhere wants us to be idiots. You feel me? And the government is involved. But when it comes to the government, they are prostitutes, especially the black ones. So if we can find a way to infiltrate with our Pan-African black conscious propaganda in the education system, since the education system has a long arm, so they can reach everywhere. So if you can find a way, well, maybe not America, because America, you're living with the goddamn colonizer. You feel me? So I'm saying, like, the Caribbean countries, African countries, there could be ways and means to manipulate and infiltrate the education system, where you can finance these books to be taught, because you're not going to change anything in 20 years. You're going to need generations. So if you can turn out within the next 20 years a generation that has the knowledge of John Henry Clark and all the other of our greats. You feel me? If you can turn out these folks that have these knowledge, 20 years after 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, they'll actually overturn religion because of their knowledge. You feel me? And I think it's the same thing with the Arabs also, with the black Arabs also. So are the black people who's Arabized. So I'm thinking, yeah, we can try to do individual stuff and try to change it that way and all that. But I'm thinking in a real general way, that's the best thing. We have to operate like white people, actually, where we try to do things the smart way and find a way how to finance certain things for bigger change. That's what I'm thinking.
I think Brother Bakari wanted to say something. Go ahead, Bakari.
Now, to get rid of, and I know we say the brother spoke on education, right? So when we speak on the history of the church, go look and see how many people the church paid for. I'm talking about when real people who weren't necessarily Christians who understood how we could use this building. Go look and see how many people that the church paid to go to college. Or the church, when black people, especially down south, learn certain laws. Go look and see. Yeah, every now and then you would see a church bombing, but look and see how and why people have stopped attacking churches down south so frequently. When they paid people to go, when they paid for people to go to school to be a lawyer, they had to bring that education back. Oh, we can defend the church. Like when you see the movie Mississippi Burning, you show them they went to some and they'll show them going to church. But if you study outside of what they showed in that movie, they caught those people when they were out by themselves. And if you study the history of the church, those people had been told, if you study the history, even the history of that, they had been told, don't leave the church at night by yourself. This is where we can have armed guards, and this is where we can defend ourselves. And they had stopped coming because they had started to defend themselves at the church. So for some people, and we're going to just say like, for me, it's almost like a waste of time. I know Trigger Happy say, if a Pan-African say it's a waste of time to get rid of it, must be extremely powerful. If you don't think it's extremely powerful, look how many people Jim Jones got to drink some damn poison to kill themselves. I'm just saying, somebody can use that to have you drink poison to kill yourself. So yes, but we can use some of those people because some of those people want to be better. And I just think it's a better way to go about it, to tell them people, you are absolutely wrong about what you say and what you do. It's ways we're going to have to get to them. And a way to get to them is start dealing with them. Because don't nobody just want to hear nobody, you wrong, y'all wrong, that don't make sense, that just dumb, I wouldn't do that. Don't nobody want to hear that if you're not even trying to deal with them at all. That's just my take. Oh yeah, and D-Web, you're right. You know what? You from Chi-Town, you say when you go to them down south towns, all black, how the whole town can get together, right? My lady from Louisville, and she went home with me in Mississippi to my little town. She was like, this got to be some down south. She said it's about 3,000 black folks out here frying fish and barbecuing. It ain't been no arguing, ain't been nothing. It's got to be some down south stuff. She said it's got to be some down south stuff because we ain't getting together like that in Louisville.
Big old facts, bro. And to your point, because that's kind of, and I'm gonna be real quick because I know you over the time. We over the time, but yeah, that's like my biggest gripe too. You know, with the community, not saying that I'm the end all be all. I'm doing it myself, but like the book bag drives, the turkey giveaways, the fish fries, the block parties, and those are ways you get people to be like, okay, let me look at you. You know, so that's my point. When I was talking earlier, I know it may seem like it was off-putting or whatever, but my point is like, we don't see this shit. Like, you're not in the hood of Chicago and the Pan-Africans are doing a book bag giveaway. You know, they're not doing a turkey giveaway. You know, it's the church doing that shit. Or I've seen the Mormons. It's black people that's voting to Mormonism right now because the Mormons let their kids play basketball at their school. Like little shit like that affects people. So like, it's cute. We can talk all this philosophical shit and talk about the history and all that. At the end of the day, bro, people resonate with what they see. If they see people in their neighborhood doing good, right? And that's what these Greek organizations. I can harp all day about how I feel about the Greek organizations, but they in there doing community work every fucking week. I know homie right now finna do some shit, finna go do a trash pickup next. They finna do some barbecue shit next week. They always doing community work. You have to join an organization. That community organization has to do community work. They have to see you doing shit. If you're not doing shit and you just talking, they don't give a fuck about it. That's my last point, bro.
Yes, because and this goes to the other conversation we had the other day. When a Red Cross goes into a country, people don't understand. It's like, well, why are people so devoted to these religions? The Red Cross is a white nationalist Christian organization. They can give you the medication because they're helping you, but they can give you the ideology and the theology as well. So of course, this person is healing my child practically. He's providing the medical services to my child, even though he's giving me Christianity too, because it's under a gamut of Red Cross. So the question becomes, where is the black nationalist or black centered or black spiritual, trigger happy, spiritual people out here who are getting practical things done for people on the ground? What would make me want to, because you have to provide an alternative. You can't just give me a good speech, brother. You can't just give me a good lecturing. You know what I mean? The people who fill in the people's stomachs at the end of the day are gonna have a greater impact than a good speech. Now, I love good speeches. but I love practicalities as well. You have to solve rational, reasonable, pragmatic problems on the ground. If you ain't doing that, you're just talking. You're just talking, brother. And this is where I am with it. And this is my problem with some of the good talkers in the black community, because they're great speakers. But when it comes to it, who is it that is in the community on the ground solving black people problems every day? It's the black churches. I hate to admit it, but that's the truth. And then you get vexed at the Christians. You get vexed at black people being Christian, but they solving the black people problems. They giving them monies to go to school. They're giving them monies to get uniforms for people. They're giving people money on the side to feed them food drives and shit like that. Where is the black-centered organizations fulfilling the same need? If you ain't fulfilling the same need, you're just talking. But like I said, I don't be over the time like D Web was saying. I won't leave it. I want to leave it. I'll leave it.
Yeah, we are over time. I could definitely extend that conversation, because let me just leave it. But in fact, no, I'm gonna say this and then we'll shut it down. Don't y'all think that's a part of the strategy? Don't you think it's a part of the strategy that the Red Cross comes in talking about we come to help, but hold this Christian pamphlet while you're at it? Don't you think it's a part of the strategy that they put money behind that stuff, which we don't have the dollars to put behind it and to counteract what they're doing? Don't you think that's a part of the strategy? So why are we accepting why are we accepting the strategy? Why are we accepting the outcome? We'll talk about it more in a future episode, man. But we gotta think about this stuff, man. It's a part of the strategy. Anyway, before you guys leave the panel, if you don't mind, man, give me a shout out, something positive you saw, something positive that happened with you in your neck of the woods, anything you'd like to share with the people. Chat, you guys do the same thing. I'm just going to go straight down the line. I can fire. What would you like to shout out this week?
Well, I saw a few ladies wearing natural hair. That's a positive.
Okay, cool. Shout out to natural hair. Brother Bakari, what would you like to shout out this week?
I would like to shout out my good brother Atiba and his wife. I forget the name. Oh my goodness, I forget the name of the group, the organization. When they say find an organization, I want to give a shout out to him and his people. They literally have black people in an area right here in Georgia buying a minimum of 3 acres. There's been about 6 of them in the same area, minimum of 3 acres at a time, and they are doing what they can to become self-sufficient. And I want to give a shout out to you, Koku, but I'm gonna say it like Icon 5 said. I'm gonna give a shout out to you, Kwaku, for I'm gonna give it for hosting, for being a host, and a shout out to D-Web. I hadn't seen him in a while. Good to hear from him. Small, brilliant brother, the type of brother we need. And to the chat and to everybody on the panel.
Yeah, shout out to you, Bakari. I also was going to shout out D-Web tonight too. I haven't seen you in a bit, but good to see you. And, thanks for coming through and spending some time with us. Webb, what would you like to shout out this week?
Oh man, shout out to y'all, man, for calling me all these nice things that I barely touched the surface. So I appreciate y'all, brothers, man. It's always a great conversation to have with y'all, man. And you know, shout out to Goku first. Quote Kwaku. Is that the new name? Yo, I'm finna run with that, brother. But shout out to you, man. I've been listening to you for years at this point, bro. Probably close to a decade, man. So shout out to you keeping this thing running. A lot of podcasts and platforms only making like 7 episodes on the regular. So salute to you for doing the good work, man, providing, you know, this black media where we can have these spaces to talk freely. You know what I'm saying? And just quick shout out. A lot of sentimental week for me, man. There's a lot of birthdays. Shout out to my ancestors, man. It's my grandfather's birthday on the 4th. You know, may he rest up with the ancestors. He taught me a lot of stuff that made me the man that I am to be able to talk to y'all today. Salute to, you know, one of my homies, one of my best friends I grew up with. He passed away too, but you know that his birthday was 3 days before mine, and then my birthday was yesterday. So it's a lot of things going on this week. My little girl's birthday about a week and a half ago. A lot of Pisces in the building. So salute to being able to see these years of life and being able to build with those you love, and then, you know what I mean. So that's all I got, man. Salute to longevity, bro.
Yeah, for real. Happy birthday to you, to your grandpa. May you rest in peace. And to your friend too. You know, may he rest in peace as well. You know, Webb said something just now that took me aback for a second. I've probably known Webb like over 10 years on this internet thing, man. That's crazy. That's real crazy, man. But thanks for coming through. As always. Webb, how's Hip Hop High Society? Anything new?
We always building, man. We always building, bro. My purpose or my only point there is to try to build a positivity. We got a little ignorant shit that comes up once in a while because it's hip hop. But for the most part, man, I want to highlight all the talented brothers and sisters out here who's actually trying to create a positive message. You know what I'm saying? So that's my goal in between having to do what we have to do for the clicks, man. We always building, expanding. So if y'all know anybody who's doing music, who's talented or whatever, it would be my pleasure to highlight those people on our segments, man. And like I said, we're just trying to focus people outside of the machine, outside of these little hat people who's taking over the industry. We want to big up those people. So send them my way, man. Always free promotion over here, dog.
Appreciate that. D-Web, y'all check out Hip Hop High Society as well as D-Web on Twitter as well. Buana is on you, man. What would you like to shout out?
Yeah. First of all, let me say shout out to D-Web. Happy birthday, brother. You know, and I hope your day was good whenever it was your birthday this month. You know, it's my dad's birthday on the 1st as well. My mother's birthday on the 16th. The ancestors, shout out to them. Shout out to them. Shout out to D-Web, granddad. You know, so you know, in this month as well. You know, much respect to him and his ancestors. Shout out to the brothers on the panel. You know, we have had a very good dialogue tonight, very respectful dialogue. We talk as men, and we didn't have to resort into the to the silliness. You know what I mean? So I'm happy that the brothers kept their temper. I like when the brothers get together from time to time and are able to dialogue without getting into the ism and schisms. You know, I really appreciate that. So shout out to even Icon Fire. Shout out to Icon Fire for holding his temper. You know, and you know, sometimes when we disagree, you know, we could get kind of very disagreeable. So shout out to all the brothers who was able to have a great discussion and I had a civil discussion tonight. And the fact that we talk as men for almost 3 hours. And no one cuss out each other. No one talk about each other mothers and shit like that. I really appreciate the conversation. So much respect to everyone on the panel. I hope everybody stay healthy. Until next week, we'll do it all over again. Peace out.
Yes, indeed.
Coco, can I say one more thing? One more, please. I wanted to give a shout out while they're trying to make laws where you can't say black into Black History. In Black History Month. I remember Bawana said you shouldn't worry about that. We should talk about Africa. I sent the video to Coco. Well, I won't say this at my son's HBCU.
Yeah, but you won't send me no video. You tell me he's gonna send me the video.
I'm gonna send it to you. At my son's HBCU during that month, they had their program giving paying homage to the African god Olodumare. And then I found out they actually have a Ifa spiritual system on campus where they have Babas come out and teach the Ifa, and they have a lot of people on campus that is learning and has joined the Ifa spiritual system. So I'm gonna give a shout out to them.
Yeah, I was gonna post that next week as a topic, but that's the kind of stuff I like to hear, man. I like to see. My shout out is to Lord of Slaughter for hitting the super chat today. I appreciate the support from everyone here. We should be back next week. In the meantime, join the Discord if you have not. And join the Discord if you have not, so you could post topics of interest that you'd like to have discussed. I'll see you guys next week, man. You guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.